You're not still at the last one.
Tired and
Wasn't as bad as Saturday.
not at all.
Hey, put a little concentration.
But
Mr. Bowling, it's good to see you getting around. That's a good thing.
Well, I'm getting around. It takes a while.
It's just good to be able to do so.
Oh, yeah. I made a firm resolution, though, no more body part replacements.
I shudder to think about that.
Caswell's coming out with some pretty cool stuff. I don't know, the next couple of years, robotic arm.
Bionic,
Yeah.
right? The bionic man. Woman, whatever.
I made a little promise to myself. I'm like, I'm never doing it. I'll be like the old Amish grandpa in a couple of years, you know. You don't have your brain augmentation. Come on, man. And we're like, not for me.
The Matrix will
Yeah.
plug you into the back.
Okay, well, I don't, Eddie must have gotten tied up, so I have another obligation, but, we can catch up on the notes. We'll go ahead and start and, start off with the chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council, for having me this evening. As you can see, there were a couple of significant calls for service last month. On Sunday, the 18th, we had a vehicle in the town stolen. After some lengthy investigation, we were able to recover the vehicle at one of the pieces of property inside of the town, back up into the wood line there. We processed the vehicle. Before we got it finished processing, one of my officers said he knew who did larceny. Juvenile was involved. Petitions have been gotten. on the juvenile. So that person will be charged with grand larceny and driving without a license. The vehicle was gotten back to the owner in relatively good condition. We also responded down here to the piece of private property that adjoins the boat landing for 2 vehicles that had been broken into down there on their property. Cash and credit cards and IDs were stolen. We've looked in trash cans along the properties, the tracks, and we haven't been able to find any of the property. So we did offer up the ability to do extra patrols on that piece of property, and the owners of the property did take us up on it. So now when the gates are open, we'll patrol that for them as well. We've responded down here to the 400 block of East Main Street for a larceny and trespassing. After our investigation was concluded, it appears that it was a domestic related situation, and warrants were advised on that. Attended a few community engagement events. Virtual meeting for CIT, the exchange program. That new MOU has been signed by our department with UVA. We're still planning on the August the 4th Boys and Girls Club event, Public Safety Day, for those kids down there at the Boys and Girls Club. That event started about 11 o'clock in the morning. You see our auxiliary officers have worked about 40.5 hours this past month. The grant, we made our first purchase on that DCGS grant. Body armor and ballistic shield has been ordered, and I got an email today that it's being shipped to us now from Florida.
Chief, just to interrupt you 1 second. I don't want it to be taken for granted, but I think I probably would say everyone in the council just thank the auxiliary officers for those donated hours. I mean, I know you have a great program, but please know let them know they're appreciated.
I will, sir.
Please let them know.
I did bring on, I think everyone saw, I brought on a 3rd auxiliary officer. His picture is there. We got him sworn in last month. His name is Sean Schneider. He's a military intelligence officer with the National Guard, works with Amazon full-time, and has volunteered some of his extra time with the Scottsville PD. He's a fully sworn police officer. I've worked with him for many years up at the Albemarle PD. Good man, and he will make a fine addition to our department. He will be the last APO I bring on. I think 3 is plenty for our department. I think the council authorized 10 back when Jeff was here, but I think 10 is just way too many for me to manage. So 3 will be where I leave it at. Attended the full academy board meeting on the 16th. Just so everyone knows, and I hope to find out in September what the final number will be, but the academy will be increasing its academy cost for training officers from $620 to most likely $700 per year. So we'll have to think about that moving into the next budget cycle of that increase. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. It hasn't been increased for many years. So I'm pretty confident that they're going to do an increase next year. Let's see. I submitted the invoice for the heating and air conditioning unit down at the jail to Javier for payment to Mr. Payne. Our officers will be putting in that window down there on the 18th of this month when Brad gets back from vacation. So they'll be doing that install for us. Talk about Mickey Schneider. Do we want to wait until we get on the agenda, Mr. Mayor, to the July 4th, or did we want to talk a little bit about our?
Why don't you go ahead and,
Okay.
you got the floor, talk about it.
July 4th for the police department went very good. Last year, it took us about 45 minutes to get the majority of the traffic out of the town last year. This year, it took us about an hour and 20 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes to empty the town of traffic. I think the biggest complaint that I've heard thus far from maybe visitors was the amount of traffic and how long it took to get out. I talked to people that were waiting in traffic just to see what their wait times were, and they said, man, it hadn't been too bad. And then one person I talked to that was behind the other two, oh, it's been about an hour, so I'm not sure. That was the biggest complaint that I'd gotten, was the wait times in traffic to get people out of this intersection down here in town. We used our drone that day. It enabled us to keep track of crowds that were east of the police department, crowds that were up on the levee, down in Doyer Park, up on the hill. What's that, Jack? Yeah, but we were able to actually do flights over all of those locations just to show us, you know, were there any spots going on? And it worked out flawlessly. We assisted ACPD last Friday. They had that fugitive from Louisa that was coming south, and they got in pursuit. Anyway, they asked and we volunteered to use our drone along with Charlottesville's and the state police's drone in an attempt to apprehend him, but he got outside of the perimeter.
I heard it a couple times.
Did you?
Yeah, just, you know, going by or then saw it. It was.
The quality of that drone is awesome. I mean, it's just awesome. We had 22 calls for service in the town on the 4th, 31 calls for service overall. We made 1 arrest for DUI that evening. And Jack Maxwell, he said at the police department, helped me track all the calls for service that day. Did a very good job. Thank you, Jack, for your help. It was a slight increase from last year's calls for service, but it was to be expected.
The crowd is bigger.
Oh, much.
Do you have a total number on kind of population you think was here?
I think from our understanding, it's over 1,000 people.
I heard like 8,000.
Yeah,
How many?
I heard 8 to 10,000.
Really?
It was a lot.
We did run out of parking space down here. I heard from a lot of people.
I remember when Robbie Lehman worked down here and I assisted when he had his open heart surgery. It was about 5,000 that year. I can tell you this crowd superseded that for sure. I would anticipate from the visuals that we could see, there was probably 8,000, 10,000 people here in the town that evening for sure. Morning crowd, you know, probably somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 in the morning for the parade. The evenings when we had the major influx, for sure. Just a lot of people.
You think more than one?
Hopefully the businesses were open.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Do you do any kind of like recap with your team for lessons learned, like how we can do better? I mean, obviously this is a really big crowd because some other areas canceled their fireworks. That may continue next year. Do you do that with your staff? Yeah.
I think what I learned this year was we're not having that overall meeting with all of the stakeholders involved prior to that pre-planning meetings. And the Buckingham Rescue Squad had contacted me about that resource across the bridge. I think what I'm gonna do this year is try to organize a meeting with all of the stakeholders. I know it's the fire department's parade and fireworks, but people have got to be at the table. Talking to each other about what the plan is. I think when I had initially closed the road down 4th morning at about 8:15, I don't know why the parade got started late. Supposed to kick off at 9, didn't get started until 9:30. So need that communication because I've got the roads closed down and there were people still trying to get to parking spaces that have been reserved. Anyway, the deputies, Buckingham, Fluvanna County worked really well with us, was able to open up the road, get them to where they needed to be in plenty of time. I just need to be able to empty the town and the side streets of any motoring traffic before that parade starts. I don't want someone to get hurt. So anyway, those are a couple of takeaways that we had.
Well, and if I, you know, in talking to some of the local people, that seemed to be a consistent feedback that everybody did a great job. I mean, I think it was a great event. So kudos to Becky and Javier working with the rest of the staff, to Chief, you and your team and the fire department as well, the volunteer fire department, but I think to get better, I think it would be good not to just have, sort of the public safety officials on the same page, but also some of the community on the same page too, so that we're all in sync. I mean, we can all do a better job at coordinating and maybe having a point person for various groups, right? So that the point people can meet way early, right? We should probably start planning this well ahead of, I know, of June, yeah.
I started looking at this thing in February.
Yeah, I'm sure you do, but the other people, I don't think got in until
Well,
much
who
later.
would you think would need to be? I know the town administrator, certainly the mayor maybe. But I'm thinking food lines impacted, and I'd really like to have that management team or
Yeah.
someone from that management team at the table. Of course, fire, Albemarle's rescue, and Buckingham's rescue. They've already asked me. The sheriff's office, the Fluvanna Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, but we also have vendors coming in, there's a lot of coordination and people coming in and out, while the businesses open and what events are going on at what time. It would be nice to have sort of that overall view of the program. And that would be helpful, I think, for you all to know is like how to map traffic of people in and out. I don't know, I was here in the afternoon, but I wasn't here in the evening. So I don't know how much the foot traffic ramped up in the evening, but I do know, yeah.
They were not up 1 week. How far would you think?
Oh, they were all the way back up past the tire factory.
Was that right?
Oh,
And so trying to get out, they were all like walking in the middle of the bridge. So many people, but you just had to be patient and. I was trying to get out because the smoke from the fireworks was making it hard to see, but there's really, if you put lights there, it's gonna make it even worse. So you just have to watch for people.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just a
I
general.
like that. I think get everybody together. Years ago, they had a lot of activities. They had music up there. They had an antique car show up.
Yeah,
they
right.
had that this year.
Yeah.
Oh, they did.
yeah.
They had that this year. Okay, I don't know if that was advertised as much, but there used to be a really big event up at the food line, flea markets and everything.
Yeah, and I think advertising that, getting all of that and the timing
Yeah.
of everything, synced up would be great. And it would be good for your team to know that as well, what's going on where at what time. I mean, I think there was a good job of that this year, but I think we can always do better.
Yeah, I was wondering if we should have somebody like to be in charge of parking, because I don't know if it seemed like not everybody was following those parking signs. We had all this parking lined up and I see people park right next to those signs and
Well,
I mean, some
would
people
tell you,
could kind of direct them like, there's extra parking over here, just tell them.
we don't have staff for that.
I know that. I mean, we could maybe get some volunteers to do that.
I can tell you last year, when we
Pardon?
put the signs up, you could tell the out of town crowd. Because last year, everybody obeyed by the signs. It was perfect.
Yeah.
This
Right.
year.
Yeah, I know. It was
Yeah, by the end of the day, that
Oh,
was full.
oh, really?
Do you
Even the
think
factory
it's
was
because
full.
of the additional people?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think there's a
I've
lot of
never seen-
Charlottesville people that came down.
Yeah, I've never seen so many, because they come up and turn around right in.
Which I think is
Parking lot
wonderful,
there.
but also next year, let's make some money.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You
So-
charge for parking.
so, one of our neighbors from across the bridge, he's told me, if anyone wants to make money in parking. Can use his property over there, just need people to be able to park cars,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
But see, that might be a good thing to approach people about who have land nearby if
Boy
they wanna,
Scouts, I mean, they.
participate and be involved and also make a little bit of money, right?
Yeah.
So I think those are the things where we could reach out to people and get people to the table if we do it ahead of time. Anyway, maybe I'm just,
Having people at the table is a good thing. That communication's awesome. I'm more concerned about the public safety aspect and getting those making sure the streets are safe, traffic's coming in and out. Everything goes off without that type of a hitch. I think what I've experienced early on, the first meetings, everybody comes to the table and kind of gets an overview, but then they break up into the little subgroups. And maybe towards the end, when we get towards June. Maybe bring everybody back together and say, are there any overall questions about how things are
Yeah,
going to
that's
work?
a good idea.
You don't know how exciting it is not to have some big violence of some kind, even if it's just major fist fights with a crowd of that size.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
That
Yeah,
it was
right,
not at all unusual
right,
to expect that to happen.
really.
Yeah, it used to be pretty rough. It really did. It used to be pretty rough.
So that's a real feather in
Really, really.
everybody's cap, you could say.
One arrest for whatever, 8,000 people or whatever throughout the day.
It's pretty good.
That's great.
And then we had our normal calls for service. I'm sure everyone had an opportunity to look at that. Any questions?
Any other questions? I appreciate all you did for us and your staff, and I
Bravo.
don't think we could ask for a better outcome for than the one we had. Chamber of Commerce, we have a board meeting this coming Wednesday at 9 o'clock at James's. If anybody's interested in attending, I'll be there. We had noted in one of our previous board meetings that the bridal shop, Terry has a bridal shop across the street. When she opened, it was kind of, COVID was still going on, and she is celebrating her first year in business. So we, several board members got together and we had sort of a little ribbon cutting ceremony to celebrate her first year here. She's doing really well. Done a lot of weddings in the last 6 weeks. And I may have told some of you this, but someone on a float in the parade saw her sign, tracked down her phone number, called her, said, I'm in the parade, but I've got a gown that needs the hem fixed by the weekend. If you can be here tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I'll fix it for you. So she got a
And she-
brand new customer from someone who was riding in the parade. So that was pretty neat. What are being, Mr. Pacific, got anything for me on?
No significant updates. I'll have a full scope. I'm gonna talk to Aaron next meeting. I'll have.
Give you a heads up, I was talking with Dwayne Carr yesterday at church, and church is considering some sort of storm windows for that building. It's an old historic
At the
building.
Methodist church or
The
behind?
Presbyterian,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm sure there's, I said, well, you need all your ducks in a row to come see the NRB, so it may happen soon, may not happen.
Thank you for the heads up.
That's a heads up. Mr. Gritsko, anything on planning commission?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First question, Javier, is Lincoln online?
Yes.
Okay, let me say a few things and then Lincoln, I'm gonna let you share too, if that's, or ask you to share too, if that's okay.
That'd be fine. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. In the planning commission meeting, we had a rather extensive presentation by our intern Lincoln, which was pretty comprehensive, a comprehensive discussion of the comprehensive plan. He talked a lot about what he saw in the plan from both counties, both from Albemarle and from Fluvanna. And as he explained his time frame, the main thing he honed in on is getting public input. And what he did was review with us questions of a survey that we really kind of need to get out quickly. And so one of the things that we're hoping tonight is Lincoln can review that a little bit with us in terms of those survey questions. So the planning commission reviewed that, gave a little bit of input, and there's a reason to try to get the input sooner than later, so to speak, because it's a combination of his efforts, also tying it in, dovetailing with the strategic plan. And the strategic plan also has a lot of bearing on how we do the comprehensive plan. So all that to say, we also have Lincoln for a limited time period and we want to maximize his input. The other thing, we talked a little bit about the appointment issue and reappointment issue, some of the stuff we talked about at council, we talked about in the planning commission, but the main we had a very long meeting on July 3rd. There was a big event the next day. And so that meeting was really, really helpful to see all that Lincoln has in motion. So Lincoln, if you could mention, I know you wanted to talk to the council tonight and address aspects of the questions. And if you could cover that and whatever you'd like to add, and councilors, I feel it's important for us to dialogue with him somewhat on the questions. His hope, if I'm saying it correctly, is kind of a fast-paced Lincoln, right, on the questions and on the survey.
Yes, thanks so much, Mr. Gritzko, and apologies, I'm not in person, I'm in Florida right now. But yeah, maybe first I can start with the survey questions. Javier, if you could kindly enable me to share my screen.
Yes.
The main purpose of the survey is to gather input for the comprehensive plan. We want to have this digital survey to send out to different media platforms, for instance, through Nancy Gill, through the monthly newspaper for the region, so on and so forth, and really get a broad cross-section of input from people from inside Scottsville, but also from outside. So now I can share. I'll just guide you through the survey. It's in SurveyMonkey. We have a monthly subscription. We plan to have the survey open for 1 month, starting next Monday or sooner if possible. But we'd really like to have town council's guidance if this survey is aligned with the town's needs and if the questions are appropriate for the comprehensive plan process.
And Lincoln, just to add, so the planning commission reviewed it with Lincoln and the planning commission, again, trying to do this. So tonight, when we go through these questions, any input you have, what you like, don't you like, if we're missing something, your input is very much up. That's what this is for, is any input that you have.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gritzko. And we have a live link that town councilors can test if you'd like on SurveyMonkey. I can forward you the link. But just to give you a quick overview, the survey begins with an introduction here, thanking people for taking their time to do the survey. It explains a little bit about the comprehensive planning process, and also gives a link to the existing comp plan. And it explains that if they have any more questions, they can call the town office or email complan@scottsville.org. That's the email that I check. Okay, we have the town logo there. So the first question is, what is the zip code that your home is located? So we've looked at previous surveys. The town had a survey in 2019 and also 2018. Those surveys really focus on zip code. So 24590 is really the area, including Scottsville and around it. We also will get other zip codes from the region. We'll be able to break down the data from people that are really in Scottsville or nearby, and those are further afar. So let's say 24590, for instance. Okay, so then the next question is, where do you work? So this, will inform whether those people are commuters, into town, out of town, so on and so forth. Yeah. We also wanted to gather data, and this is an anonymous survey, by the way, on income bands to inform, different information we might want to put into the plan, mainly informing housing questions. And then how many people are in your household? And what is your relationship with Scottsville? So this is the first question that really decides how the survey is then split. It's called a decision tree. So the first choice is I live in Scottsville or frequently visit town. Those we could say are our true town clients. And then the second are more the tourists that periodically come to town. So if you answer the first choice, you'll be directed into questions that are very relevant to the town. The second choice is more about tourist questions. I'll just go to the tourist questions first very quickly because those are a simpler process. Okay, so these are the questions about those visiting Scottsville for the first time or occasionally visiting as a tourist. So Mr. Gritzko had a great suggestion at our last meeting based on his background in tourism to really ask the question of what sites or activities near or in Scottsville bring you to town. So there's a lot of different options, James River Brewery, historical sites, so on and so forth. But we understand that this data can be used for other purposes to really inform how we develop the town physically, invest in resources or infrastructure to support tourism, or how other organizations such as the in terms of commerce, so on and so forth, can use the stat if the town council would like. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
that's it. Go ahead.
Excuse me, just to take a step back, how many questions total in sort of each area?
It's about 13 questions per area on average. Yeah. If you don't want me to go through every question, I'll just skip to the highlights.
Well, no, I'm not as concerned about that, although we do have time constraint, but I am concerned statistically, they do show that people don't like to spend more than a few minutes going through a survey. And so last time I read, it was like 5 or 6 questions before people lose patience. So I wonder if you looked into that, because 13, I don't know what other people's feelings are. And the other thing I would say with respect to income, has anybody filled out ones like this? Does anybody report their real income? Because I know I don't.
Yeah, that's pretty personal.
Yeah, it's pretty personal. I make it up, right? I give some phony band of income. So I'm not sure that that's reliable is my only point. So not from my standpoint, it wouldn't be.
I think
Yeah,
it's connected
thank
to
you, Councilman Morse.
housing questions. It may, and it's anonymous.
I still would never report anything, any income stuff online. That I consider that personal, private information. So even if it's anonymous, I wouldn't do it.
Lincoln, can you circle, so go back to Eileen's question, if maybe come back to that one and just say circle that as one, maybe that's a question a counselor has. So as you go through the questions, it may be there's 2 or 3 that people have concerns about and we address them further. Just so that's one there's a concern about. We'll
Yeah. And I'm not saying you have to change it. I'm just giving my opinion on it.
Yeah, you said.
It comes down to, is that something that we want to know? Or is
Yeah,
it, is it a
is it
viable
relevant?
question? And if it is, it might be worth keeping. And if it's something that's just kind of a sorting question, maybe change it up. I don't know.
Either way, even if you keep it, you just have to realize that somebody like me is not going to report it. I'm sure there are other people like me that aren't going to report it. So you have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. That's all.
Well, my suggestion, but that's great, is just Lincoln, if you just note questions about that one, go through the other ones. Any ones that you see that you have questions with, we'll say, okay, we have a problem with these 3 or whatever the number is. So that's one that we have a question about. And we can come back and talk about it more.
Okay, that's question number 3. We could also add an option checkbox that says prefer not to answer. That could be a great resolution to
That would be good.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We did not get this insight during the planning commission, and every time we talk about the survey, we learn something new. So this is an excellent step in the right direction. Thank you. So these are examples of amenities, sites, or activities that might bring people to the region or to Scottsville. I'd be glad to add to the list or amend the list. And I can share the link again after this meeting. I'll just keep going.
Yeah, and I would say too, just Lincoln, just on that one, if y'all see something that's missed there, like some site or something, when you see the survey, just let him know he's just trying to put what's there. We might have some more to add on that one.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. What are the top 3 things that Scottsville needs? So the intention of this is people would fill in each blank. They could fill in 1 or up to 3. And then from this information, SurveyMonkey will create a word cloud. So we're not going to do an immaculate statistical analysis of this, but questions like this will create a word cloud. And this was done in the 2018 survey that was done for the town, also a word cloud. And it was useful. You can see certain words are bigger than others. Okay. So what are Scottsville's top 3 amenities?
How is that sorted, by the way? Is it just gonna be in a word cloud? Is it gonna, if there are, spelling errors, or if there's, different wording for the same kind of topic, is that gonna be looked at individually? And
well, this data will be exported to an Excel file where I or anyone can go in and, correct a word. So if they spell Monticello wrong, we can correct that, and it'll list down the number of Monticellos that are listed. Yeah. So there might be a little bit of data cleaning. just to give you an overview of the 2019 survey that was done for the town, it was done by Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. It had, I think, 119 responses only, but the 2018 survey had a lot more. So we're definitely targeting to get more than 119 here, hopefully. Yeah. But I think that's really good about variation of responses and how we might have to clean the data somewhat. Yeah. And then the next question, what are your top 3 reasons for visiting Scottsville? And then number 10, having greater availability of what types of short-term accommodation would lengthen your stay in Scottsville? So this type of question is dealing with tourism, but this will also, we think, inform the comp plan regarding short stay rentals, RV parking space, camping accommodation, hotel rooms, so on and so forth. So these things could affect the zoning regulations in the future. Okay. So this is a perfect example. If people don't type things in, we have to type something in and complete each question. Okay, so after the tourists finish those questions, they will be directed to the very last question. It's in this space below. Do you have any other further feedback or comments? So just to also share, we would plan on having this survey available online, like I mentioned, through Nancy Gill or other venues, but we'll also have QR codes at different venues around town, and also sharing on Facebook or other social media. So let's say we have an event later this summer where tourists might be in town, they can take this survey. Okay, now going back to this decision tree, question number 5. I might just have to restart the survey really quick. The reason we made the decision tree is because we really wanted to focus on people that are in town or near town, and also the tourists. Okay. So I'm just re-answering this question so we can move forward. And here's the question about household income. I think adding another option, prefer not to answer, would be a really great solution. How many people are in your household? And this time I'm going to select, I live in Scottsville or frequently visit the town. Okay, what are your top 3 priorities for Scottsville? The previous survey that was done in 2018, a lot of people put in restaurants. Some people put in very specific words like Chinese restaurant or Mexican restaurant, different types of food. So we anticipate getting some responses like that. But how those responses translate to a comp plan, they would translate that we might need to consider whether we have enough commercial space. Do we think a fast food restaurant with a drive-in is going to come to town? So on and so forth. Yeah. Okay. What are your 3 types of new businesses needed in Scottsville? So we think we might get some responses having to do with restaurants or low-cost food, fast food. So that will inform the comp plan and amount of commercial zoning we think we need in the long-term future. What are your top 3 concerns for Scottsville? So one could be, event parking, so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay, and what type of housing would you like to see more of in Scottsville? We think housing is going to be a really important topic that's going to be in the comp plan. And this question was also in the 2018 survey. So selection options are large single-family homes, mid-sized single-family homes, small affordable single-family homes, condos and apartments, townhomes, and senior living. The last survey in 2018, most people responded with the top 2 or 3. The issue is the most affordable are really, townhomes or apartments, of course. So we want to really get data on that type of information, and it might help to inform, the goals and strategies in the comp plan related to large scale housing, whether it be land up near Pullet Town or the tire factory and so on and so forth, just to kind of get a better understanding of what the community is looking for. Okay, let's say I'm looking for apartments. Okay. So next question, should the town's comprehensive plan encourage the development of affordable housing? The planning commission really talked a lot about this question. We think it's important to ask, but there's lots of different definitions of affordable housing. So that's why here, this definition of median household income for Scottsville is 58,333. This comes from the US Census Bureau. So that's really clarifying that affordable housing is if your family is making that much or below per year. So people could say, yes, I think the town could have more affordable housing, no, or I'm not sure. Next question is, what additional sources of revenue would you support Scottsville to be able to increase town services? Vehicle tax is an existing tax. Meals tax is already 6.5. Town real estate tax would be a new tax or other sources of revenue. The planning commission, was wondering about whether a town real estate tax would be something that comp plan might want to consider recommending. We know that is a really big question for the town. They didn't want to ask a question directly, specifically on real estate taxes and real estate tax, yes or no, because probably most people would say no for any new tax. But they really wanted to offer a range of different options to generate more revenue that would potentially provide more services. And again, they thought that this real estate tax or others would directly relate to the physical infrastructure of the town and the service it could provide in the next 10 to 20 years. Okay. Next question is, how much population growth do you want to see in Scottsville over the next 5 to 10 years? Just to also elaborate, this was a question we talked a lot about. Previously, we didn't have population in the question, so then we added that to be very specific. How much population growth do you want to see in Scottsville? Then we also clarify in the question, growth could have perceived positive impacts, such as attracting more businesses and enabling the town to provide more services. However, growth could also have perceived negative impacts, such as changing the character of the town. So this is a balancing act, of course. We also wanted to say that if you do select some sort of growth, the next question you'd be able to say what growth that would be you would prefer. Yeah. So the options here are no growth, moderate growth, or a lot of growth. So let's say I select moderate growth. I forgot to answer that question, so it's asking me to go back. So I'm just going to select moderate growth one more time. Okay. So next question is, since you prefer some amount of growth for the town, what kind of growth would you be most favorable toward? Housing, industrial growth, or businesses? We know that the town has very limited industrial zoning, of course, due to the tire factory. So they're probably not going to select this. They might select housing, businesses, or they might have some other ideas. So let's say, housing. Okay. So now the survey is moving into a group of questions really focusing on the cost of renting or buying in town and what people are looking for. And this focuses on housing, of course, again. So have you or someone you know looked for a home in the last 12 months in Scottsville? And this is, again, a very similar question that was asked in 2018 survey. So we can compare the numbers between 2018 and 2023 and see if there's something's growing or shrinking, so on and so forth. So this option, yes, looking to rent and buy, or only to buy, only to rent, or no, I'm not looking for any housing. So let's say I'm looking to rent and buy. So this group of questions, what is the most you'd be willing to spend on rent per month in Scottsville? Under 500, between 500 and 1,000, 1,000 to 1,500, or over 1,500. And again, this is pretty much exactly like a question that was asked in 2018. We'd really like to know the updated data. Previously, the amounts for rent were much lower. We know there's been a lot of inflation since 2018. That's why we raised the amount slightly. Some people think you can't rent much for $500, but maybe there's a larger proportion of the population of Scottsville might be needing to have this really affordable housing. We're not quite sure, but we hope to find out. Okay. What price range of housing for sale were you looking for in Scottsville? So looking to buy, this will also inform what kind of type of housing we might need to think about in the comp plan. Are we going to be looking at village residential a lot more, or we're going to look at something that might provide a little bit more affordable housing for younger families, so on and so forth? Yeah.
Lincoln,
Yes.
excuse me, when you asked the question about, have you looked or interested in housing in the last 12 months? It might be better. I don't know how you all feel about this, about the comprehensive plan is for the next 5 years. We've got people who are young, they might be getting married, they're gonna look for a house, not this year, but maybe in 2 years. Or we have retirees who are gonna downsize, they have a lot of land right now and they want something smaller. Since the comprehensive plan is good for 5 years, would it be better to ask, are you either now or in the next 5 years thinking about looking at different housing? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's really good change we can make. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Councilor Morse. So that's the end of the survey, and you can kind of understand how if certain questions are asked a certain way or answered a certain way, then they are able to answer the following question or not able to answer the following question. That's why we wanted to make it quite customized that way. And also to answer your question earlier, Councilor Morse, the estimated time to complete this survey was 6 minutes based on SurveyMonkey for the average person.
Yeah,
So that's
within
towards
that window, yeah.
Yeah.
Lincoln, just to clarify, so we had the one question, I think, but we also might have had an answer to that question. Is that, am I remembering correctly? So the one question from the tourist part, it seemed as though that was a solution that everybody was okay with or not, just making sure, because he's trying to move forward.
Oh, I didn't catch that. What's the question?
Can you explain the question one more time and what the answer was? The one
I think question number 3 regarding household income.
Oh, yeah.
So this question will be asked to everyone. Let me just start back at the beginning. So everyone will see this welcome. They'll be able to find out about comprehensive plan, so on and so forth. They'll be able to enter their zip code. So let's say they're visiting from New York City. We'll be able to know about what zip code they're from. Where do you work? They can answer that. And we might get some random answers like New York City, but that's okay because we understand we might have some tourists. What is your approximate yearly household income? This was the question that was raised. I propose adding another option here, say prefer not to answer.
Oh, sounds good.
And that, is everybody okay with this?
Yeah, I think you'll get more honest input if you
Okay,
have
good.
preferred not to answer.
Perfect. I think that was the only one. The only reason I was pushing it is I know he's trying to get it out, so I just want to make sure we cover it.
I have a question about the first part you were saying about where do you live and what's your zip code? Is there a way
Yes.
to decipher, or you could weed out the people who actually live in town? Because if they put 24590, that's Buckingham, Savannah, that's a broad area. Would it be too much to ask, like, do you, what's your address, or maybe do you live in Scottsville?
I think we serve them enough.
That's a really good.
24590 covers a huge area. We got what in town, we got 600 people, but maybe the 24590 might be 3,000.
That's a good point.
And his question is a good one to say, I don't know how to ask it to say.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you live in the town?
You live in the town.
Or maybe put a check mark at the bottom of it that just says resident of Scottsville. Rather than putting your zip code in. Just say resident of Scottsville, check that.
Yeah.
and-
It's a new, I guess you're saying a new question, so it would be a second question with the zip code. It could be, are you a resident? Yes, no.
Well, and if not, what's your zip code or something like that, you would know that.
I think a lot of people would fill it in wrong.
Maybe-
Because,
maybe the
because if they live in
difference-
Buckingham, their address is still Scottsville, Virginia, 24590.
Right.
So then it says, are you a resident of Scottsville? It's like, oh, my address is Scottsville, Virginia,
and-
yes.
The question is, do you live in the town limits?
Yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
You're in Scottsville.
There's a phrasing that can encapsulate.
It's like the next question, do you live in the town limits?
Well, Mr. Mayor, one comment I was gonna say is just to follow up. Between these two town councilors, both with Councilor Hyson and with Councilor Meredith is saying, sorry, is correct. Like sometimes when I talk to people and I'll say, do you live in Scottsville? Oh, yeah, I do. Where do you live? Oh, I live in Buckingham. I'm like, well, you don't live in Scottsville. And on the other hand,
But she's not saying the word Scottsville, she's saying town.
no, I was more referring to the fact, just the sense of in experience, we've all run into people and
Oh, yeah,
and
you are.
Councilor Hyson's point is also a good one that do you really live in the town? So it is tricky because sometimes people would say they do, but even though they really don't.
Right.
So,
I also think though, for the purposes of this survey,
you might not have,
how, it might not matter.
yeah,
I mean, somebody who's living over the bridge may be living over the bridge because they couldn't find
Right.
an apartment in Scottsville.
Yeah.
But they, they do all their shopping here, they go to the restaurants here, they,
Yeah.
I think that's an issue that we've run into a couple times in the last, 6 months or so is. Do we appreciate the people that we, provide services to that live outside the town? Yes, they're key to our, survival as a town, but do we represent them?
Yeah.
We represent the 527 people in Scottsville. And I think it's
represent both.
important to draw that distinction too, is
Well, but I
We-
thought we decided in the strategic planning discussions that we
Absolutely, we
really
do,
do represent.
Yeah.
Oh,
communities.
absolutely, but on an official capacity, I think
Well, yeah,
that
yeah.
there's, if we're trying to get information. From within the town or specific information, I think it's an easy enough question to ask, which is,
Understood.
yeah, we appreciate your opinion, we want you to fill out the survey, but. What are the people in town saying too, because the last couple, major votes that have come across the table here there's been a division between. People outside the town that are Scottsvillians and people that are inside the town, generally they're different opinions, so I mean, if there's a question that we can ask. That differentiates that, I would like to have that on there.
yeah, and that goes back to what the mayor said. I think Lincoln, could there be a subset like he's saying?
Yes, I think there can be. Just to also elaborate, this is the 2018 survey that was done for Scottsville. And it talks a little bit more about the zip code here that really goes around Scottsville. So we would be pulling data like this, but we might also get some people from other zip codes surrounding, of course, Esmont, Dillwyn, so on and so forth. Yeah. But I understand the commissioners and councilors' concerns that we want to understand who from the town is we really representing. I think this is excellent feedback. Thank you so much. I also just want to quickly highlight this previous survey. This was really feedback regarding housing from the survey. The different types of housing you can see here, many different types, everything from apartments to duplexes to senior living, so on and so forth. So we hope to get similar feedback, but we've narrowed down the types of housing to get more directed feedback. This is a lot of different types of housing. Yeah.
I'm
Just
sorry,
wanted to
I
explain
can't
that.
say, what are the two big slices there, just out of my own curiosity?
Mid-sized single-family homes and small affordable single-family homes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Can't really see it on the projector.
Then we've got residential mixed use. There's a lot of different types. We've clustered these a little bit more for our survey. But you can see that people are needing a broad range of housing, not just perhaps village residential.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll just show the cover of this survey. If you're not familiar, it's a pretty good survey, I'd have to say. I'd be glad to send around the link. It's also on the town website under Planning Commission. Yeah.
Hey, could I ask something? Are you planning on, are you doing a paper copy for people who don't get online or don't have internet or?
That's a good
That's a really good
Because there are a
question,
lot of
Mr.
people
Hyson.
in town that I know who do not use internet or, especially elderly people.
Originally, we're going to do an online and paper-based copy, but now because there's the decision tree, i.e. If you answer that you're from out of town, you'll get the tourist questions, so on and so forth. We don't think a paper copy would be successful, but when we go to events and have a booth, for instance, we want to have an iPad with us where people can fill it out on the iPad at our little station. We're planning on having different outreach activities at the library, maybe a coffee session at the brewery, so on and so forth, where we can engage people. And then if they don't use the internet at home, so on and so forth, they can use an iPad there. Does that answer your question, Mr.
Well,
Hyson?
is there a way we could actually make sure that they get a copy, like the residents of the town, to even hand deliver them, just say, put them on their doorstep or something.
But he was
Their
saying,
name. Because there are some people who are
Because
not
of
gonna go
the
to the library,
phrasing,
go to the
because of the phrasing, I think it's gonna be hard to do a paper copy.
if you answer one question, it brings you to this
Right.
question.
So
If
you-
you answer it differently, it brings you to a different question.
Oh, I see.
So there's no way to.
But you could also make a copy specifically for people in the town that would be. You could cut a lot of the fat off of it, and you already know they're in the town, you know their zip code, all that kind of stuff. And you could have a kind of a streamlined, get the general information if you wanted to do a paper copy of that.
If the town councils would like that, yeah, we could streamline a paper-based survey and distribute it only to town addresses and cut out all the tourist questions, so on and so forth. That could be achievable if town would like us to focus on that.
That was one thing that came up in the strategic planning sessions too, is about having non-technical avenues of information, right, of events that are going on and things like that.
Is there a
So-
possible incentive we can put out to get
That's
people?
what I was wondering too.
I don't know.
think it's a good.
I don't
point.
know what a reasonable thing would be. Maybe work with some of the businesses in
Yeah,
town.
10% off of your dinner at one of the local
Mm-hmm.
restaurants or something like that. Might be,
Yeah, some along those lines. That's exactly what I'm thinking, but I don't know. How would you get people on board, and also how do you get the information out? in
yeah,
time?
no, that's a really good.
I'd like,
point.
definitely like to get a lot of people to participate
I-
in this.
Think if we have QR codes, if we advertise it in the businesses, like, so say for Baines, if you fill out the survey, you get a free large coffee, here's the QR code, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So we
great
could advertise the QR code and the fact that you get this promotion, if local
Yeah.
businesses
think
can
it's
do it
good.
that
We'd be
way.
willing to sacrifice our meals tax on a couple like coffees or something, if you wanna work with Baines and just have it as a kind of, you can redeem it for your, whatever percentage. I don't know if
Mhm.
people would be interested for the amount of money that would be, but it's not kind of low risk to us and,
Mhm. Yeah, good thought.
figure something out.
Okay, any other questions?
When are you planning on completing this final survey, having it done? I know it's a draft right now.
Roll out and all.
Well, Mr. Hyson, the survey is actually ready to go.
Oh, it is,
I'll just
okay.
make these small amendments. I'll have another option for the people in town to check. Yes, I am a resident inside the town limits of Scottsville or something like that. I'll talk with Mr. Gritzko one more time, and of course Javier. And then we'll be able to send out the survey. Miss Nancy Gill has already agreed to put it in her next newsletter, so on and so forth. And I can get some paper copies ready also.
Great.
Sounds great.
Good job. Thank you,
Yes,
Lincoln.
sir.
Thank you so much.
I think we can also, since there's the tourist part of it, talk to Airbnb owners to get them to leave like the QR codes in
Mhm.
there.
Campsites, river.
Yeah,
thing.
inside there.
Didn't we do paper copies somehow in 2018?
No, I know
I
that.
thought we had some spread out around town.
The initiative to put copies on the native, I'm not aware of the town doing paper copies.
Couldn't remember.
Thank you, everybody. He's trying to work in the timeline to get it going, and he had it ready. He wanted, so that was great. That was super.
Mr. Town Administrator, do you have a very good report?
Yeah, so we are starting to do this year, starting July 1st. So what I'll be working on is updating our books to reflect this year's budget. Now they're in the new budget year. Beyond that, I hope to have enough time to report back to that person on our financial report. Start the new year, so we'll start with the new budget, new priorities, and I'll report out anything that we need to next meeting, once I get there.
So I'm sorry, are we going to get you into year end of this, this, this
Oh, yeah,
run,
sorry.
and then next month or next time you're going to start the new fiscal year? Is that what I'm hearing?
Last fiscal year,
Right,
and then I'll be working on starting with this.
okay, so we'll get both of those year end? No,
Yeah.
we'll get that next month. Okay, I just want to be clear, thank you.
And the financial report, the audit, sent back to them for some corrections to some things they did not pick up.
Hmm.
And so I hope to have a report for you all for next week.
Okay.
Any questions for the treasurer? Thank you. I don't have a whole lot to report, other than spent the 4th of July pretty much all over the place, so. Trying to meet and greet people, and thank them for being here.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for doing that.
I would ask if, former Mayor Neal might step forward and join us at the table for a few minutes, and we can talk about, something that we have talked about a little bit, away from the office. We have.
Oh, I love this hat. I took mine off.
There's been ongoing discussion of Van Cleef and things that need to be done in Van Cleef as well as other sites around town, and I think, of course, Cody has done what he can do, but he's pulled in a lot of different directions, and I think former Mayor Gill has a suggestion, an idea, and working with Councilman Lee.
So Liz Knotts and I have been talking, and we're moving this closer in the time frame than we previously thought, but our goal initially was to start a hiking group where we would actually coordinate. Is that better? Once a month, hikes, not necessarily in Scottsville, but within our region. And then we got to thinking about things here in Scottsville. And how, I mean, for the past 2 years, I tune into your meetings, and what do I hear? A lack of maintenance in our parks and trails. And I haven't seen a solution. I haven't seen anything moving in a forward positive movement. Mr. Hyson, would you agree with me?
That's why we have it on the agenda today.
Okay, so I've spoken with up to this point, maybe 20 folks who are not only interested in joining a hiking group, but also as a mission of our hiking group to help maintain the trail systems and the parks here in Scottsville. So that is what I would like to speak to you about. Well, basically, we're going to do it anyway, but we need you folks to say yes. I would like to know right now who's in favor of us moving forward.
Oh, I'm all for it.
I see two.
Absolutely.
Four.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, please.
okay, now with that said,
Review.
I would like over the next month to sit with my partner in crime, Liz Knotts, and Eileen, and come up with procedures, a document that town council can say yay or nay to.
Sounds great. Why don't you have it done yet?
Because I'm trying to really follow process and procedure.
That's not our style, Nancy.
Now, are you gonna be focusing on these?
No,
All the parts?
Now that's.
the town,
Okay.
we're not picking up trash.
No, I mean, all the parks in
We
town,
want to look at everything.
right? I think it's great. I think we need, I always felt like we needed a parks committee or a maintenance committee specifically for parks, because our parks are huge and they're hard to maintain.
And you need more than one person.
Yes, you do, and you need some regular events to do that.
Yes. So that's what we're going to be working on
Great.
and,
Oh, Dan used to do that. He used to coordinate that way back,
yeah, he got busy.
you know.
So we're gonna go with Eileen.
Well, Dan could be a consultant.
Now we're gonna go with Eileen.
Well, everybody can be a consultant,
it's-
right?
yeah.
It'll all come
Yeah.
back through here.
Well, you know what they say about consultants.
I was gonna say, don't say that.
So it sounds like a good deal, and,
So we'll have something next month.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to have, what I would like to do is to create a flyer to put around town and the area. And right now I have the potential of an actual trails person who professionally creates and builds trails to come in as part of the team.
Sure.
That's great.
That's one.
So, and that's all I have.
No, it's good.
Just, why didn't you start already? That's the thing.
Well, one of the things too, I don't know, could be one of your committees is I think,
Strategically,
you know,
nothing
as
to
soon as the
throw.
paper's
from.
gone now, but it would be nice to have a master plan for the wetland area. Because we got that, and it could be, you know, a place where people maybe have one trail there, and we already have a kiosk, it's in the dirt there. That could be used there, and we're supposed to have a parking lot there, but it would be good to actually have a plan for that area there that would, you know, maybe the public could go to eventually, so that whole wetlands would be a possibility too. Maybe your group could do that too, but
Well, I
I'll talk
think-
to Eileen about that.
Yeah, well, that's something that we will, that would be in the back burner,
Yeah,
because there's a lot more that has to be
yeah,
done.
but
before
Van
we go
Cleef
there.
alone will take, yeah.
But we're also thinking of having someone who knows the bird calls, and I'm sorry about, I know Brenda did that.
I should know that.
But to actually have events where early in the morning, we go out into Van Cleef and
Yeah.
listen to the birds.
She does it herself.
I know.
But Van Cleef, yeah, it would be good. We got, in following the master plan, just to, and we've talked about some of that, I mean, about what to do. You know, with the bathroom there, with maybe the dog park we're gonna talk about, but I could tell you, maintenance there, I walk those trails every week, and there are certain areas that really need more work than others.
Well, I think that's something that kind of adjacent but off topic here. I think now that we've cleared the budget and everything, I think maintenance is something we need
Yeah.
to really sit down with and
That would be good.
not necessarily, you know. Be vindictive or drop the hammer on anybody, but I think that there needs to be clear expectations about what is your responsibility and
Yeah,
what do we
really.
want done.
Well,
And then make that happen. I think that's.
Yeah,
our group does not want to create new projects.
I got you.
I know.
I'm
We wanna
spiraling
just-
off the end of
we
the
just wanna
conversation.
Try to maintain
Yeah.
what we have.
And
And then,
capitalize on what we have,
exactly,
right?
and then move forward once there's a plan that is effective and being followed consistently, then we can talk about the next steps. All right, that's what I got.
great, thank you.
Love it.
we're looking for your paper. That we can.
Eileen and I'll get together.
Be careful what you wish for. That's it.
Mr.
Thank you.
Bowman, anything exciting going on?
There is something I want to talk about. I've noticed when you've been talking about the tourist lodging special use permit, that you kind of strayed into the area of talking about the rezoning of the special use permit, the merits or demerits of doing that, when you started to talk about tourist lodging and the overlap with the new word for tourist lodging, which is homestays or whatever you want to call it. And I've become more and more concerned, because when you are involved in a zoning matter, you exercise your legislative hat, and you require to have a public hearing, receive public comment, give notice as required under the statute, in particular notice for adjoining property owners, and then at the public hearing, hear comments for and against, and then make a resolution. But if you cut that process off in the early stages, you can be accused not only by the landowner who wants the special use permit issued, but also by his neighbors or anybody who's in opposition to it. So you need to, when you're gonna, and it's really difficult to separate the two when you've got a live proposal before you're actually gonna talk about this gentleman's 3 or 4 or 5 mobile, I call them mobile cabins, for want of a better word, tourist lodging proposal. And then my legal alarm goes up, and that's why I talked to Javier, and then Becky cut me off the pass and sent out the email that she did.
Yeah.
So I want to, you all have the right, and after that public hearing, before or during or at some point in the proceedings, to make a motion that reasonable conditions be considered as part of the special use permit. That's part of the special use permit process, and that can be the full Albemarle County homestay rules and regulations and every little thing they have, or some of it, or all of it, or half of it, or whatever you want to. But the way to do that is to, during the course of that proceeding, which you're going to consider next week, is to make a motion and say, I want that this be done, but I want this to be done with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, as if it were a homestay, just to pick up from where I've been. If I'm missing you, where you're coming from, forgive me, but this is what I'm kind of gathering. Yeah. So you have the right to make that motion, and then if you get a second, then if it counts, the majority supports you, then away you go. And if not, then that's the end of it. But that's the process. And then the other thing you can do at any time when you have something like a special use permit before you is to make a motion that you hear the staff's recommendation on a particular matter. Says, I'd like to have the staff come back with more particular regulations for this kind of activity, because I have this concern, that concern, whatever. And then again, the same process, you have a second, and then if you got a motion in a second, then you vote on it. If it's vote, then staff can make a recommendation, and then they can come back and put that, what staff's 2 cents worth is, and presumably they'll have the ability to do better, a thorough investigation of the matter and give you a broader platform, if you will, to pick and choose as far as what's reasonable regulations, if that's your concern, or not, as the majority of council may determine is appropriate in any particular case. But in a zoning matter in particular, I think that's the way you should handle this, and not really get into the nitty-gritty of the details of what you're going to do next week or the week after or a month from now. And it's almost impossible to avoid that if you have a work session on the issue before you have the actual meeting itself, which is going to be a public hearing on it. And because of the nature of zoning, I just think you're cruising for a bruising by doing that.
So, Mr. Bowling, if I understand you correctly, then what you're saying is because of the legality around this and the appropriate formality needs to be adhered to, and we should do this through formal motions in the session where we're having a public hearing.
Because
I just want to make sure I'm clear.
That's right, you've got it. The applicant should be here, hear these things.
Right, got it.
And not only the
He will be.
applicant, it's also the neighbors, and then the public.
Has to be public.
Who you've given the notice to.
Gotcha.
And that's where I get concerns. And
Yeah.
because zoning's gotten to be so contentious everywhere, then that's maybe my antenna is raised too high, but that's how I see it. So I'm particularly concerned about in that particular area.
Well, my thing has been, because I followed this when I was planning commissioner a little bit. We've never, and I went to some of the meetings with Elmore, we've never in Scottsville had an ARB ordinances or any kind of stipulations. The only thing we have is tourist lodging, from what I understand. And all the ARBs are not ARBs, but they're tourist lodgings. And we have some stipulations on that. And I was talking to Becky today about that. We could approve it for 5 years, and they got to have health conditions and things like that. But with an SUP, from what I understand, it's not a 5-year thing. An SUP is forever, isn't that?
Well,
right?
it is forever, but you can approve it by making the applicant be present whenever he has people
Right.
on the property and on and on. I mean, I have not memorized
Right.
the homestead
No,
provisions for
no.
Albemarle County.
Yeah.
What did I send you, Becky, like 40 pages?
Yeah,
it's
A lot of stuff, yeah, and
We don't
the
wanna be
reason
that-
there's a lot of
No.
stuff is because I didn't want one of those, if you've ever had one, if you get into the kind of homestays that Albemarle County's trying to regulate, where 10 of your drunkest friends decide to show up in your neighborhood and party for a weekend, then
Right.
you want some regulation. Maybe it won't be like that. but
Well, yeah,
maybe it
I mean,
will.
and that my concern too is that, there were none 3 or 4 years ago. Now there's 10.
But you got the right to do that, but.
Right, but it's retrospective now.
But you have-
Well, it's
Everybody
not
done it.
retrospective. You've got a hearing on it. That's
Okay.
the whole
Right.
point
You
of
have to
it.
address it all in here.
But all ARBs or just this one?
Are you talking Airbnb?
Well, all
This
tourist
is-
lodgings or
This
this,
is not an AR, this is a tourist lodging
Tourist lodging, right.
proposal under your
Right.
current ordinance, but
right,
really, it's kind of like a home, it's
Right.
an old,
Yeah,
it's the
kinda
old
like-
word
yeah,
for homestay.
right,
But if you have, but you're allowed to put reasonable conditions on a special use permit.
yeah, right, okay,
And that's up to you, but you need to do that as part of the formal process, when you've got an application before you, because otherwise, I'm afraid you're gonna get in legal trouble. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm
right.
afraid.
I guess my problem is, or question is we got 7 or 8 of these already, and I don't think we put any conditions on any of them.
I can't deal with what's going on.
Okay, so
before.
you
I can
can-
only deal
Oh,
with
okay,
going forward.
okay, yeah, because I think there seem to be popping up every couple months,
Yeah,
and
But,
it is a concern throughout the country, not just here, but
right, so if you have concerns, then
Right.
you need to make a motion.
okay,
And then it's seconded, and then
yeah,
the majority of council agrees with you, then it goes forward. If they don't agree with you,
Right,
then it doesn't go forward.
so we won't deal with old ones,
Yeah,
just the new ones.
yeah,
I
that's
think
all
you
we
can't
can.
deal with all of them,
Yeah.
right? They've already been approved.
Well, the only
think
thing
they
I
would
was
fall
thinking of
under
having
whatever.
it, maybe we should look forward though to have a consistent policy.
Yeah, I
for
think
the
it's
future.
good to have a consistent
Yeah.
policy, but I don't know if you can make it retroactive.
Right. Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
Yeah.
you can't make it.
I know, that's
Right,
not,
right.
but that's what he's
Yeah,
getting.
that's what I'm saying.
He wants to make it retroactive,
No,
but
but
I don't think you can do that.
But
It's already been
That's
approved.
all.
yeah, but I kind of want to be consistent with what we've done in the past too,
Well, I can't, but I would recommend that you just look forward and deal with what
Okay.
you've already done.
I see.
What's before you, including one that's coming up next week, and deal with that. And again, what you want to do is not necessarily what
Right.
all these
Sure.
other folks
Yeah, sure.
want to do. You might have the greatest idea in the world, and I might agree with you on
Yeah.
homesteads, but
Yeah.
the other council members may say, no way, we don't think this is necessary in this particular case. They might have said, well, we haven't reached a critical mass,
Right.
hadn't been a problem here yet, whatever the reason.
Right.
And that's the nature of the process.
I think it's important to figure out though soon.
Yeah.
Objective 3, we're trying to increase short-term lodging sector, so. Let's definitely figure it out and make sure we
Yeah.
stick to that, I don't wanna, think it's a good thing to promote. I
Yeah.
don't want to,
We
The regulations
We
are
don't have
gonna
any hotels or
restrict
motels.
people
Especially
wanting
in
to.
a small town, you want a nice
You
balance
do
where
want
it's
balance.
regulated, but it's not
And
overregulated.
now we're getting into the discussion, the special use permit that's before you next week, and that's precisely why I got
What you don't
concerned. Which you don't want to do, because then you're gonna lose one way or the other, because somebody's gonna be unhappy lots of times, no matter what you do, and the person that's unhappy is gonna come back and say, well, wait a minute, you all prejudged this matter the week before.
Right.
With no public present,
Uh-huh.
So,
and that's that sort of thing, and one side or the other will have that argument.
So-
That's why I suggest you do it in the formal, at the public hearing as part of that process. And you can continue the matter if you need
Yeah.
additional time. There's no time limit that's pressing in this particular case as there is with the planning commission to make a decision. I mean, you've got to do it, but you don't have to do it within 30 days. You're allowed to continue the matter, if you need a continuance.
Yeah. Okay.
And the worst that will happen is you have to re-advertise a public hearing.
but it sounds like if there are particular concerns that we all should come to the table with the concerns and be prepared to say either you need more time or
That's right.
here's a solution, I'm proposing this, I put forth a motion. that we all come prepared with those ahead of time,
That's
correct?
right. And also, you don't have to be prepared ahead of time. You might say, well, this is somewhere where we need the input from our staff, our professional staff. So let's get their 2 cents worth, and then we'll consider what they come up with and fine tune what our proposals are.
And the
If that
ones
makes
I've
sense.
worked with will come to you with staff recommendation, planning commission's recommendation. And that it come, that any SUP would have to comply with, get them right, because it's more layers here, county, town, state, and federal regulations. That means health department, roads,
Right, sure.
anything that's in our ordinance, the town's ordinance under tourist lodging. So that covers all of that. The planning commission does have recommendations that's already in think
Yes.
with any application, it's important that you know what the planning commission.
But it's also important that when you get at something that you don't really know what you want to do, that's the consensus of the majority of council in the issue, is to say, staff, what's your recommendation? That's what they're here for. Get their recommendation. Because then you can say, hey, we want it, you don't have to say we want it tomorrow. You can say we want it next week or the week after or whatever they think is reasonable time. And then go from there. And you could get staff's recommendation. You could say, well, you missed the boat, fine. Or, well, you really hit the nail on the head in this particular case.
And
Fine,
staff's
too.
recommendations could also let you all know whether it's going in the direction of the comp plan or not. That's a very important.
Right.
The
that's-
difficulty now is everything's in flux, right?
Yeah.
And
We're
I
trying to
I
capture
actually
some
think
of those. at
that
this
should be
time.
addressed in the next
Yeah.
comp plan. Hopefully that will be.
Yeah, and your concern is well put. I mean, you say, well, you should have done this, that, or the other, and these other ones, but probably,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna speak for the council when they did it, but they had good reasons for doing what they did at the time.
yeah, oh, yeah.
And there is a critical mass of these things that
Yeah.
come in. So it's a tough question.
It is, it's a tough.
As Alex just brought up, what, you want to, your comp plan says, and your strategic plans, at least that's proposed, says you want to encourage this.
Yeah.
I don't know, talk too much. That's
No,
all.
no, those are good. It's
Thank
it's
you.
definitely a tough issue. It's a good point. Yeah.
It's lodging tax.
Yeah.
If they pay it, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Town Administrator.
So I'll start off with, first one to thank Jim for helping me, coordination for the DDOT roundtable. So, out of interest that town council had and planning commission public about having a longer and more fruitful conversation with DDOT. DDOT came back after communication said they thought it was productive. Process would be to get a small roundtable together to start talking about it. So we hope to primarily use it as for what we have, which is urgency in some respect with our comp plan, but also to build a relationship to be able to talk about future, more granular kind of topics that relate to town and DDOT. So we'll have, want to thank Lincoln again because I got a calendar inviting back and forth on it. July 24th, we already reached out to you guys for representatives, planning commission, and have some staff and a community member who will be trying to participate.
What time, please? Was it the 3 o'clock?
Once I go to my calendar, I can even
3 to 5, but they're still confirming with their office
Okay,
internally within VDOT.
so it's tentative. I just want to block it out if it's tentative.
And do you have the agenda for that roundtable yet?
Well,
No, probably not.
I can share it on the screen if you'd like to take a look, Javier. Would that be okay?
start.
He was gonna show the agenda that he's working on.
Yeah. Do you still have those?
Oh, yeah, he's gonna normalize.
I have it right here. Can you see my screen?
1 second, let me pull over this.
No. Basically, from all of the participants, we've crowdsourced agenda items.
And increase the size a little bit on the bottom, right? Just because we're on that screen.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Okay,
Okay.
so these are the participants, Ms. Morse, Mr. Payne. Planning Commission has 2 members plus Ms. Angevine is an alternative. And then town staff will go. The meeting will likely be at the Charlottesville residency of VDOT. It's near the interstate and Pantops exit. As Javier mentioned, we grouped the agenda into 3 baskets of questions. First is the long-term comprehensive plan questions. I won't go through all of them, but these are really trying to have a better understanding of how VDOT envisions Scottsville's place in the road hierarchy. Other questions having to do with repaving schedule here. And then most importantly, within the state of Virginia comp plan statute, there's a modality where towns can request for technical assistance. And we understand this to be free assistance from VDOT to help us prepare the transport portion of the comp plan. So we think that could be very beneficial to having a really robust transport plan for the next 5 to 20 years. The next batch of questions are medium-term topics to discuss. This could range from how to promote pedestrian safety and walkability to vehicle speed and safety, and also vehicle capacity for roads, cross-section, and also one newer item is pedestrian access to the river levee. I've heard Mr. Hyson and Mr. Gritzko both mention those 2 things to me separately last Monday. So I think this is a really good topic we can talk with VDOT about this Route 20 bridge over the James River and how potentially we could connect that to the levee with the pedestrian access. I know the town has discussed this previously a long time ago with VDOT, so we'd like to see if we could bring this to the forefront again. Then moving on to section number 3, this is immediate troubling intersections and crosswalks. So members of the Planning Commission, also Town Council crowdsourced these problem intersections. So you can just see James River Road and Route 20, so on and so forth. So you might see that this is a really long agenda, but we sent it to VDOT and said, let's focus on the comp plans things first. Then gradually we might have another meeting or 2 to focus on the more nitty-gritty intersections. That's just a quick overview.
Thank you, Lincoln. One point I'd like to make is it came out, as you all know, I'm writing this grant to try to get some potentially tourist type of funding for the town. So I was looking at curb bulbs, and Chief, you and I had a slight email about it, and we've talked it in the walking of the town. I reached out to SCAN to talk about maybe having a design contest about that, and found out that they're already talking to VDOT about painting crosswalks, and they have a grant to do that. And so we have this roundtable going on, we have my grant going on, we have SCAN talking to VDOT. Do we need a point person to have these kind of discussions? Because all this is going on simultaneously. And I just don't want to look like the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing on these matters. I think it should all go through town, and that town staff should certainly know about it and be directing about it, but we need sort of everybody on the same page. Do you have a feeling about that, Javier?
Yeah, I think that'd be the most productive, because I think it would lead to a better relationship with the VDOT.
I think so too.
I'm taking this as an opportunity to kind of get to know them and learn a little bit more. I pulled it in Stevie also, or community partners, put it that way.
Yeah, and I'm not being critical. I mean, everybody's trying to do the right thing by the town, right? It's just that we're not coordinated.
Well, hopefully with those meetings getting started quarterly with SCAN and chamber and council and pastors group and so forth.
That will help.
Hopefully that's going to help make sure everybody's kind of on the same page with things too.
When it affects public safety and things like that, I just think
Yeah.
we need.
Is there
one
anybody
person.
from that group that could be added to the meeting, or should be added to the meeting?
That was my.
Which group?
Stevie,
Steve is then.
No, I just mean, is there anybody else that should be invited to the roundtable from those groups?
In the community?
Yeah, any community that.
I'll participate if you need.
I think for public safety.
I think you should.
Yeah, I do
That's great.
too.
Good.
We're gonna send a meeting, any meeting invite out.
Cause I don't think any of this should be done
That'd be
without public safety, knowing and town knowing.
Maybe share the agenda too.
Well, and this seems to
We
be
don't need-
kind of the place to
Oh, okay.
funnel whoever else is out there.
Yeah. that's-
Whatever loose ends there are, this is, I think, a place to.
I was just surprised, and again, I don't wanna hold anybody's work up or things, but
Because we were looking to see if they had to have lead on the freeway and do the design and painting, and they already were working.
Did they say when they're gonna make 20 into an 8-lane highway yet? Or-
That's what we're here for.
Okay.
Up and over.
yeah, they're gonna be a big bridge over the whole town.
Yeah. Next item.
So second, maybe a little bit of an update on Fourth of July and various conditions. First, I'd like to thank, all my staff. I worked closely with Cody to get prepared, grounds, the area, worked the whole day with them and followed up. We had a debrief today about what we wanted to improve. Farmers market manager has been really helpful. Also planning with kids' activities, pointing resources to me.
She's got great ideas.
She's good. And then I got a candidate assessment for staff about what we want to do next time. I got input from you today, my lucky chance on what went well. I think we'll try to have a continued conversation down the road about how to improve. I think starting a little bit earlier, as I've done with other events, would probably be beneficial. With hopefully a schedule permitting next year early on. Beyond that, I want to thank volunteers that staff members were able to try and find kids activities. Chamber of Commerce was able to take over in the morning to include an activity, and then we had what they call a drive-in. It's not a car show, the drive-in, because there's no competition, and it was specifically called that. So what I liked about that is we had activities throughout the day, into using fireworks. So it was a big effort taking it on, but grateful that we had a big crowd that was really seemed to enjoy the day. So in some ways, I'm looking forward to it next year, especially with a little bit more preparation. Yeah, a little bit of less.
Self-imposed pressure.
Well, and if I could offer a little bit input in your thinking as you move forward, is that, we have a number of events, some that the town get involved in and some that the town doesn't necessarily get directly involved in, but everything is indirectly, has an impact. So it might be nice to have a checklist, right? So if other people are putting together an event, that they have a checklist to say, did you do this? Have you informed this person? Does this, it would be helpful. And that way we have sort of one coordinated.
Does our shared
Yeah.
drive still work?
I
I haven't
don't
gotten
know.
on it, but
Yeah.
apparently it's out there and it exists.
Yeah,
But I know Laura had that. Those forms are out there, like.
it would be nice
In
to
February,
resurrect them though.
by February, this needs to be done. By March, this needs to be done. By April, start doing, this and with respect to Bateau and 4th of July and.
But like we had the bee, the pollinator day,
Yeah.
right, which was a really good activity, but it was sort of, I think, from the people I talked to, felt it was a little haphazard and whatnot. It would be nice to have a way to coordinate and inform people that this is going on and, everybody has the same view of what the events calendar looks like. I think the website will help with that, but the process needs to be
One thing
clear.
Sorry, one thing I was gonna say, Council Hines, that you've hit on is that there's been a lot, and this is normal that it happens, but when you lose town councils, we've lost at times good systems that somebody had in the past. And it might not be a bad idea, maybe going back to our new town administrator at some point in the next month or two. To contact 6 or 8 of them to say, and Laura's one example. Is there a system you had in the past that we can have access to or something? Because there are things like that we've lost. That people had.
Oh,
just
really?
over time, very good systems in the past that have been lost and.
Well, it's not lost. I
Or
just
it's
don't know
out
how to
there.
use the shared drive
Yeah.
that is supposed to be,
Well,
you know,
some of
for all
it
of us.
sometimes like even,
Well, even finding it.
Or,
you
yeah,
know.
not, I know how to use a shared drive. Let me, let me rephrase that. I don't know where the shared drive is.
Right.
So
Oh, definitely.
Laura, that, it's, I think part of what you guys are asking with events, we either have to leverage our community a lot.
Yes.
I think when Matt did that phone interview about, or did that radio interview and called us a grassroots or nonprofit. That's exactly my previous background, and I had the same feeling with, so. I'm gonna continue conversation with Laura, because that's, I think the right way to slow away somewhere.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but it has to be somewhere, because you mentioned that. And then maybe see what kind of community we can build. Nancy already gave us a decent example of
Mhm.
what we might take advantage of that sometimes gets lost as council members and staff members change.
Well, and the strength will be in the, sort of public, private and nonprofit community, that joining of all of those capabilities will make those events stronger if we can
We're all trying
keep
to-
coordinating. Yeah, yeah, everybody's team Scottsville, right?
Beyond that, I don't have. We had a big crowd, as Greg said, and I'm not surprised I drove around Cody, and this was much bigger than last time. I won't know until 30 days after the event, when I get my meals tax back. I have all my vendors fees, which I did increase after talking to the council member Bassett about a recommendation. I thought I had some slack, that helps out a little bit with it. I can talk in generalities about meals tax, but July is usually our biggest month. Part of it is 4th of July, part of it is it's about our tourist season with the James River. And people just like to eat out a little bit more and have a evening time at a James River brewery when it's warm outside. Beyond that, I think it's very clear, it's very useful to share how much this is a big labor intensive time for staff. From coordination of vendors to things, town to preparation to communication. So the year.
Commend you guys for doing so much work and pulling it all together and do that.
Yeah, that was the heck of it.
One of the things I would suggest next year, I mean, you could have done this year is if there's things that you could put out to volunteers, some of us could volunteer to do that, because you guys did all that yourself. I don't even know what to do, but I do feel like it was a phenomenal event and things went very well. And I was really impressed with the cleanup.
Yeah.
This is the best I recall cleaning up, and I think part of it years ago, we got rid of the confetti. But, there was candy all over the place and people came around after the street picking up, and that really moved well. But I think getting volunteers, what you need help with ahead of time, whether it's vendors or musicians or cleanup, and come up with a list, like she was saying, like a checklist. So we need this, and this, and I can do this, and this. We need somebody to do this, and this.
So this reminds me of Seagull Summer planning it, so I would probably start at the beginning of next year and have, Greg has a good point, you have a big meeting where everybody pulls up. You separate out and we pull back in, right before.
Right.
I'm already thinking of things we can get help with. I thanked them personally today and asked them to join again, but like.
Who's that? The Fort Hard Part?
Oh, no, the group.
Yeah, right.
Whatever name they put to it.
The cleanup crew,
Right.
they did a great
They
job.
did. I was really impressed with that.
I
They
think
came out.
that asked them again, they said they just want to get more people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And are you gonna get some feedback from the fire department too, if they had any concerns about?
That would be a good one to move in. I
Yeah.
spoke to them before, but not
Because
after.
they've done a phenomenal job, and I know they do a lot, and we don't even know what they're doing sometimes.
So I
That's
think
the problem.
Yeah, yeah, they need to communicate it. We gotta have them before the 4th of July, a couple months before, to say, hey, we're going through this is this, what do you need help with? Maybe we have extra money for them, or maybe we could help them with donations or whatever, just volunteers.
so. I could maybe report a little bit back, following. Once I get a little bit of information, we're back, felt good about that. We had a lot of rooms, the staff members, and what this we have, so I'll take the recommendation, let's try to get a ballot. Earlier in the year, so we have like a public safety, fireworks and staff.
Yeah.
I think there's some, later summer or fall events being planned now, so it'd be good to get it in front of that.
And we're-
And restrooms, cleaned up Thursday. I had Denzi come in again Friday, to auger one of them. We had so many people come through, that, one of them had a little bit of an issue, but effective today, they were, to my condition.
Which restrooms are those? Okay, yeah,
Somebody got dragged along.
right.
Once I saw him in a truck, so driving around, saves some steps.
Are we locking those at night now?
We talked about that just.
That was a great recommendation.
Yeah.
I think we need.
But they're not, are they?
They're not right now, and we've had some
We need
graffiti start showing
Oh,
up.
really?
in the, Canal Basin bathrooms, and Cody, Javier and I talked about that. Why can't we lock those in the evenings?
We used to have a guy in a wheelchair, we have the apartment, so they got Charlie.
Charlie.
Charlie, he locked him up.
Lock the bathrooms in the evening and unlock them in the morning.
Yeah,
So I think it's prudent with the graffiti that we talked about earlier.
just safety in general. I think it's good to have them locked at night.
Last winter, we had a homeless person staying in the ones down here.
And they should be locked after the season, I think, permanently.
Oh, they are, yeah.
So why, because we get worried about.
The logistics though is who's gonna lock them and who's gonna open them? I mean,
If I get a key, I can unlock them in the mornings. It's no problem. I'm
We
down.
can work with that.
yeah, that'd be good because, you can't ask Cody to lock them at 8 o'clock and
Saturdays.
and somebody to come in at 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do, we'll get some, make a checklist.
Yeah.
We'll figure out timing and details between that.
Yeah.
I can follow up with that.
Hey, any other questions for the town administrator? Turn the next half of the meeting over to Councilmember Morse.
Did I?
Yeah.
Share something else?
Sure.
Yeah.
Next, in addition to the 190 Fowler Street SUV that we publicly noticed for this next regular session. We will also have on the agenda the fee structure that we talked about.
Oh, okay.
We'll have two comments.
Oh, okay.
Will there be a vote then on that fee structure at that
Sid,
time?
Sid,
Following the
Yeah.
public
Yeah, let's get that solidified now, the agenda.
One off.
Yeah, right, Chuck?
hearing. I feel that exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
That's
I'll
good.
give your attention, please.
Okay, I'm gonna try to move, I know it's gonna be a long night, I'm gonna try to move through this as quickly as I can. I did not print the entire strategic plan because I didn't think we could go through it, but you've approved the previous parts of the strategic plan, so I didn't think it was necessary to go through all the rest of the information. But I did want to go through this section, which are the objectives, strategies, goals, and measures. And this just shows you the first page or second page here, the OGSM model on sort of how this all ties together. When you all came and I facilitated those first session, we got together and developed 6 objectives, really strategic priorities. Then I have worked independently with the Planning Commission and with other community members to try to put actionable goals, if you will, and strategies to make these come alive, right? So they're not just these general principles out there, but there's actually items that we could take action on as a community. And that's really what this summarizes. So I just want to take you briefly through it. I would like you to consider approving it. We're not going to do that tonight, but you have a whole week to look through this and give input or consider. I would like to take the vote on it next session, if you will. So we can go through some of the highlights. Objective 1, promote sound government practices. Bill, I think you had a lot in the original sessions of thought that went into this, and everybody contributed on, and so I've only included what I thought were the top 3 or, 2 or 3 goals under each of these. There were more, but the ones that got the most kind of communication and traffic, those are the ones that I think we could take action on. So improve information availability. You can see this is what we'd like to achieve, how we'd like to achieve it. So in this first bucket, create a searchable website. You all know that's already in progress. And there were other thoughts that people had to make information more available across the community. Some thoughts on measures of success, on how we would say we did a good job or we missed the mark. And then the outcome, which is the measure should be quantitative. The outcome is typically more qualitative. So what would you expect if we improved on information availability, greater availability of schedules, documents, research, and decisions, more community connections, which was also a priority. So that sort of covers what went into it. So improve information availability, improve outward communications, and building financial capacity. I want to talk next time, I've already put it on the agenda to talk about how we generate additional revenue. So that came in time and time again, but we don't have money for this. Well, how do we get money for that? So I think we need a concerted discussion on revenue sources, and next work session, I plan to try to lead a discussion on that with everyone. And you can see some of the ideas that came through here. Lincoln mentioned some others or similar ones. And I think we need to consider these. But I'm going to try to track progress on some of these. Objective 2, foster smart growth. We talked about smart growth being growth, but while also preserving our small town character. And that's what we would define as smart growth. The goals, the top 3 goals that came up: increase affordable residential opportunities. Lincoln has echoed that in the comprehensive plan. Increase community services. This came up time and time again about medical services, mental health services, transportation services. So we should talk about some of those, and preparing future growth scenarios, which Lincoln also talked about, or what do we want to see more of? Do we want just single family housing? Do we want apartments, senior living? So some of this is happening in conjunction with the comprehensive plan. So I think that survey will dovetail into giving us some information on this. And we should go back and check through this kind of quarterly. How are we doing on some of these things? So when you look through these, I want you to look at, are these reasonable goals that you've heard from other people that you know, constituents, citizens? Are they meaningful? Do we need to edit them? And if you could give me feedback, I can make any changes. Lincoln's also helped by giving his input. There were some duplicitous entries that were sort of overlapping. I've tried to normalize them in this action plan. So, for example, there is something under objective, objective 4, the second goal is increase walkability. That was also under objective 6, provide accessibility for all. So I renamed it accessibility awareness and sort of reformulated things. So I moved things around in the buckets, but I tried to preserve basically what I collected from you and from the Planning Commission and people in the community. Okay, so it's not like one for one. I did some normalization in this that you should know about. So the objectives you should recognize, the goals I've normalized from collective conversations. I don't know how much detail you want to go into on this. Do you want to go through it for a while and have subsequent discussions? But we really need to approve it and finalize it and get it put up on the website when the website goes live.
And I think Lincoln needs that too.
To dovetail with the comp plan. And, you know, I applaud you, Lincoln, and the planning commission for trying to keep everything in alignment. So we do have this nice top-down flow of information. So are there any questions? Am I being clear?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing, Eileen, I was gonna say, first of all, thank you for your work. I was gonna just mention this to the rest of the council that, in a sense, the opportunity of getting this together is an opportunity for us to kind of align our priorities. One of the things that set in motion what we did really for about 5 years, it really was at the beginning of when Matt came, and whether you agreed or disagreed with what Matt did, he was actually following the instructions almost hook, line, and sinker with what was set in motion about 5 years ago. What I'm saying is what we're doing right now is doing that same thing. We're kind of going through setting in motion, both in the strategic plan, what we think are priorities as a council. These issues we're going to be dealing with. These are the things we're going to come back to in the next year or two. These things we're nailing down here. So the time to really make sure we look at this is this coming week, to really look at and see, do we like this alignment that's here? Because the reason Lincoln's also a part of this is that this is going to unfold how he does the work in the comp plan itself. So these pieces fit together, and right now is the time we want to make sure they fit well. So I mean, we can change our minds, we can do things later. You're not beholden to all this, but we want to try to behold ourselves as much as possible to make that. And so I'm kind of suggesting that by retrospect, it's kind of an important moment. The work that you've done has helped to try to bring together all of us on the council. So we kind of have this set of priorities, and I think you've done a good job, a really good job of categorizing them and putting them in workable ways. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that. And, you know, I do want to say that there are things in here that I think, even though we had the comp plan, were not necessarily visible in the last comp plan, about accessibility, about the emphasis on wildlife and pets, on the emphasis of affordable housing. I think all of this would have, some of that would have come out naturally, but not everything. And not everything's going to dovetail perfectly, but I think where you can have at least some synergy there would be really good. And so we can look at this and say, these are our priorities as council. This came from input within the community as to what some actionable items would be towards those strategic objectives. And then we can try to measure them as we go forward. So it does fold into a process, if you will. Any other questions? We can go through it in detail, but I think it's probably best for you to read through it and try to absorb some of it.
Yeah, but I mean, right away, I can see a couple, I mean, just some areas that like, you can't do it all. It's a lot of things there. Some are across. If you accomplish one, you would want to accomplish another one. For example, well, I can go into it later, but
Yeah. And I'd love, you know, if you want to.
Yeah, there's some
that's fine.
yeah,
but-
some don't flow with the other. Some, if you accomplish one goal, you actually hurt another goal. You know, that's one of the things.
Like that.
For example, this one, the first one that comes to mind. Okay, increase short-term lodging. Okay, so that's a great thing, but that doesn't go with increased town population or increased affordable residents.
But it's not mutually exclusive.
Well, I disagree. I think they are. If you say we're going to this, say we're doing this Airbnb here, or we're putting something on top of a hill with a, you know, an RV or a mobile, that if you put 3 or 4 tiny homes there that people could live in, that would increase the affordable housing and also increase the population. Whereas if you increase the, it says increase short-term lodging, that, I think that's a little a stretch, because we talked about, you gotta have a balance between short-term lodgings and residents. And we got, say we got 10 or 20 or 50 short-term lodgings, that's 20 or 50 residents, or not residents, those are just tourists. And so that's the thing where you have to look at the balance of you're increasing tourism, but you're not increasing residents.
I may be reading it wrong. One of us is reading it wrong. So an increase in short-term lodging sector. I personally, where it says strategies, publish a list of local Airbnbs.
Right. Yeah, I like
I don't see it as let's make 100 more Airbnbs. I'm reading it as let's make sure the Airbnbs that already exist are always full and people know that they're here and they're coming and using them.
Yeah.
So,
And that's exactly the way it was intended. And what's really interesting is the discussion at the council level, at the planning commission level, is what is that balance? Right? Because there might be things in the comprehensive plan that would help manage the balance. We're talking about smart growth, right?
Yeah.
Growth, but in a way that preserves the town, the small town feel and culture that we've all come to know and love, right? So that's the real challenge.
Oh, yeah.
But whether these are the priorities and that we should be focusing on these, that's the real question at hand. Are these important enough to warrant some attention?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's the main one that I think.
Well, the other thing that I will say, going back to what we have to do once we get the paper, so to speak. So if we get the strategic plan, get the comprehensive plan, to actually make it happen, then you have to champion it and do it. So it's nice that it's on a piece of paper, but then that means we're asking town administrator or staff to do it. We ourselves are involved in going after it. So the paper part of it is aligning. The next step is, again, once that's done, is to really pursue some of these. And you're correct about that in the sense that there's a priority. Then we as a council might say, we're going to devote our time to this one over that one. They both are on here. It's just which one is going to be later on the one we champion, or the grant that comes available, or we win this grant versus we don't get that one or whatever.
Well, and it also speaks to prioritization, right? I mean, we should look at this as well. Does it fit? Does this, whatever's coming before us, does it fit in our strategic priorities? Does it serve part of our goals or not? And that should weigh in the decision-making process,
Absolutely.
right? And if you look at, for example, what Nancy brought up today about the parks, well, it fits into that objective 5, protect and promote our natural environment, right? So that's an action that we can say, if that committee forms and if it's successful, that we can start to measure progress against that objective. So that's a good example of where we can leverage these. Okay. So I will let you digest this. And if you want to sit down in person, I'm willing to do that. If you want to send me input via email, I'm willing to try to accommodate. But I would like to get these approved very soon, because the comp plan needs to be done and we do want them to dovetail pretty closely. Okay.
And will this be put into the comp plan?
This will not be part of the comp plan. There will be 2 separate documents, right? This really is, at least the strategic plan, the strategic priorities are under the purview of the town council. And we went through that exercise already. The strategic plan starts to bleed into the planning commission, those actionable items. That's under the purview of the planning commission. And it helps to have these dovetail together so that they know what the priorities of this council are and their actions dovetail with that, right? And we can weigh them against the priorities. But not everything's going to fit perfectly.
Yeah, I know. They may have their own vision
Yeah.
with the comp plans that doesn't fit into this.
Well, there may be things outside that are necessary that don't necessarily fit into strategic priorities, but they may still be a priority for the town.
I think I can say for the planning commission, at least from what I hear, that there's a great desire to be aligned.
Yes,
Big
good,
desire.
good.
Yeah, and I applaud the planning commission
Yeah.
for trying to do that.
Okay. Website.
Okay, website. Website content has been moved. And they are ready to go live to production. We are having a training session for a few of the main content moderators next Tuesday from 3 to 5. Javier, myself, Lisa, someone else I think is involved.
I think someone from the ARB is gonna wanna be, I got your
Oh,
email.
that's great.
Got your email, but I think it should be Erin, she's the chairman there, so. I'll
Okay,
talk to
so
her.
I should invite Aaron. Do
Yes.
you want me to add? Okay, so in addition to that training session, there's gonna be general training sessions for everybody else. So we have a main set of content moderators, and then anybody else who thinks they might be involved with content and wants to learn how to do that. We're gonna have at least one, maybe two general sessions. If you want to be included in a general session, let me know. And I'll try to get that scheduled, but if you don't, that's fine too, okay? So I will make sure Aaron gets on that invite then, Alex. Anybody else that you can think of?
I think we discussed that earlier, and I think that's a good cohort to start with.
I don't want that first one to get too big, I just want them to be the primary content moderators.
And then I think since we're paying for a continuum, it's a service in some sense. We just keep in mind that as we want more people to be able to use it, or we have new people in, we fold them into that. So
Mhm.
I think after we have that first meeting, I'll get feeling that it's something I can show somebody else, or this is something where I need to facilitate somebody sharing that idea. So
Right, and then the thing, Javier, that we should explore, I know that the chief has Facebook and other things, like, we have to decide what. Who might be missing out of our content group. That if nothing else, we want to have links to, so the fire department, the police department, there might be others that we want to highlight in there. So the go live date is hopefully sometime early August. The site looks pretty good. I haven't gone through it in detail, but we'll start to do that next week. So any questions?
The maintenance of would that be done by the new town clerk? Because that's.
I think the new town clerk
that
would
should be-
be one of those
I
primary
think that
content
would be-
moderators.
That was the role, isn't that what you did, Viv?
yeah, in some respects.
So you'll be involved with that, but the new town clerk, it's in the job description of the town clerk anyway.
Yeah, so I think it would be, you would have staff members that would want to know that.
Yeah.
From the size of staff we have here, which is.
You probably need a couple people, yeah.
And the one thing I would say is that I think we need to exploit and build out that tourism section of the website. We don't really do a
Yeah,
good job
there
with like
you
the
go,
events.
there you go. We got someone right there.
Things like that. We talked to Dan about maybe trying to get Scottsville tours together.
Yeah.
I really I've talked to Alex about maybe co-chairing some of the events committee stuff so that we can share that burden and broaden it a little bit more. But I think we can do a lot more
yeah.
in terms of tourism and bringing in revenue to the town.
That's what people are gonna go to first when they go to a lot of outsiders anyway.
Absolutely.
And I'm not
What
sure
can I do in
if
this
there-
town?
I'm not sure if there is something on the website for this already, but we should have some sort of portal or at least an email that businesses in the town can.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have that.
Post and have things put on the, calendar for the town
Yeah.
and have availability to. Not necessarily post things for their business, but if they're gonna have an event or something like that, it should be available for the town.
Yeah, and we should have our own town calendar
we have-
instead of linking out to Charlottesville calendar, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there is a section for how do I bill, so
Right.
we need information on what are those things
Oh, yeah, I got.
for how do I. So once that goes live, we really need to build that out. So I'd like to spend a month or two just really building up the content in this website because our website has been so sort of underserved for a little while, completely understandable with lack of resources. But while we're going through this and we have a lot of energy on it, let's make it as good as we can make it.
Oh, yeah. It's exciting. It's great.
Okay, dog park.
Dog park, okay, so Bill and I walked, and I'm gonna get this map over here, Bill and I walked over in Van Cleef. Before Matt left, Matt talked about a number of, like, 3 areas where we could potentially build a dog park. And this came up in the strategic plan, and it also came up, in past things like, I forget if it was the Waukesha plan or the small area plan, but I've seen references to dog park. So Bill and I walked Van Cleef thinking that Van Cleef was probably the best area to have this dog park. And there were a couple of flat areas, one that was smaller. And let me see if I can sort of point to where this was, and Bill, maybe you can help. So this is the entrance from, so here's the valley, right? This is the entrance where Doug's Maytag is here. And as you come up over the bridge, let's see, where's the dock here?
The dock's up there.
Right under the orange line.
Just follow the.
Okay, so the dock's over here. There's this flat area, I think, right, yeah, here it is. This flat area right in here.
Just over you, after. you
Kind
go
of cut
over
back
there.
out into the hill there.
It cuts
Just
back
before you
in.
go over.
You couldn't do it there. That's the spillway.
That's the
That's the
There's no way we can go back here to any extent.
That's a,
that's the spillway.
That is the overflow, it's the lakeward overflow, it comes out here, goes back around this way, it gets. into-
Sacred territory,
You can't touch that.
gets into the damn sacred.
Well, I mean,
and on and on and on.
Okay, where we're
we-
going.
we went,
It's all excited.
Can't do anything.
well, I mean,
I mean, I don't control.
which
the
you
rules. I
could,
don't- the
you
damn
could just,
engineer won't let
I
you.
mean, we're not building on that.
No, it doesn't, it's just that you're gonna have regulatory problems.
Yeah, the
Oh,
dam
really?
engineer would not let you touch
That's
that. That's like
basically,
really important
that's the
area.
safety gap for the survival of the town.
The other part we talked about is that,
Was at the top of the dam.
yeah, at the flat area.
Yeah, at the top.
Right.
There was 2 parts that are, one were flat. There and the
Oh, yeah,
below.
that, so there was, let's see, that
Can't do it at the
area,
Top of the dam either.
no,
No.
You can't touch the dam.
What
You
if
could
It
do it.
wouldn't, it would, no, it wouldn't be on the dam. It would be to the left of it.
The one area that I would say that.
Where those trees
below
were
the-
cut down,
below
yeah.
the dam.
That little inlet
Well,
area.
when you first come in, that's probably. the
Yeah,
only
there's
place
a
you could
flat-
have it.
That
There's
used
a
to be,
flat area
that's the old
we saw.
swimming pond.
Yeah, down
it's a
below.
small area. It's really small,
That might-
but it would
might
give
not-
us space
Back when we
for
had
the
winters.
dog park.
Yes.
Now,
Well,
I've
Bill
I've
said
never-
he doesn't think a lot of people will use it. I've sort of heard different.
I've heard a
In
lot of.
talking to people,
A lot of people.
walking their dogs,
Yeah.
and I think, we have a priority of increasing community connections. I think that's a great way for people to meet and gather and things like that through their pets, through their kids.
We should talk about locations. Those are,
Yeah.
those locations.
Yeah.
That was the
That's
most.
what I
That's-
said.
that's private
We
property.
did it, and Javier said we don't own that.
Yeah. We'd have to get permission from. No,
We don't, we'd have to get
if we
it.
could get permission, maybe we get permission.
See, that was,
That would be the ideal place, I agree.
that was one of the things that Matt, and I talked to Matt about this before he left, and he
Maybe we
gave
could-
me those 3 locations.
Maybe we could work with the owner and see if we could use that. That'd be a
Southern-
great place. Maybe we could at least approach
You
them.
can't really use it.
Yeah, maybe
Okay,
that'd be a great
so do
place.
y'all think we should approach
I
Southern
think that'd
about
be,
that
that's the,
area?
the other thing is,
I agree.
the problem with Van Cleef, I was thinking about that too, is
Can you
really
put it
that
in
there's
the
no parking
floodplain?
there. And it's really hard
The
to,
land has been
you'd have to
dedicated
walk your
to.
dog there, and it's, so you need
Well,
parking.
yeah, I think that's an important thing too. If you're gonna
Well,
have a dog park,
Yeah.
Mr. Bowling brings up a really good point, because one of the things we talked about is that if you do it there, do we have a watershed problem where you have a lot of dog excrement there that's sort
Yeah.
of flowing into
Maintenance.
the watershed, and maybe
Well,
that
get
would
them-
be a
And
regulatory
make people
problem.
clean it up.
Yeah,
What's wrong with that? That's what they should be doing anyhow.
Well, that's what I always do, but not everybody's so vigilant.
Well, that's their problem. Make it a fun. You know, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah,
I think an important thing too is if you're gonna have a dog park, it's for convenience, and if
Yeah.
it's a far walk from everybody,
Yeah.
Then we'll do it.
you may as well just walk the dog.
You're right.
I agree.
Right.
That's.
The third place that was talked about, that Matt recommended was using Bruce Park. Because
No,
it's
that's too
not-
small. And that's
It
not,
is
that's kind of taken away, to me, that's.
I'm just saying,
Itself
that was
honest,
the third
Mr. Bruce.
side,
My
because it was
continued,
convenient.
my continued suggestion would be to try to buddy up with the Methodist church. They have that giant field
Yeah.
up at the top, and I have no idea if they would be
That'd be great.
interested in it, but it's already half fenced. It's
That
not
would
being
be a
used for
great
anything.
place too.
One of
It's
the
pretty
things, I
central.
mean, I would say this is maybe take this to Nancy, you work with Nancy on, this is a long-standing issue, we're not gonna solve it tonight.
I mean, that's.
But take it there and we can talk about it, definitely needs to have, we put like.
Helpful, which is why I wanted to bring it.
Right, well, if we, maybe ask if Jim, Jim, if we approach the owner of that land. And they said we could do that. Would there be liabilities that we'd have to,
That's an
Okay.
interesting thing.
we'd have to deal with?
Owner of what land?
The plat.
The what?
The
That little
plat, that little triangle
right
there,
before you get to the plant, the tire
the
factory.
two roads that go to the plant, there's a triangle there, that's the ideal place.
Wait, if they let you use it, there's something that just came out effective July 1 this year that says that if you private landowner use it for recreational purposes, that you have some liability protection.
Oh, good.
But you have, you have enough insurance anyhow, so
Okay,
that's how you cover
yeah.
risk.
So the town would be covered if it's part of the town.
That would be the best place right there. You could drive there.
Through our policy, Mr.
No, the landowner would be covered through the statute that's, I think, just came into effect in
I see.
July 1, which says that it's dedicated to recreational use, see some liability benefits.
Okay,
Yeah, that'd be great.
And,
can you just email me the status, Mr.
yeah, I'm sorry. Well, Dan and I'll talk tomorrow a little bit, we should talk to each other.
Okay, that's all I have. Yeah, that's a productive discussion. Thank you all.
Town maps.
We still haven't decided what we want on the kiosks. So we talked about maps last time and what we want up there. I saw a good example recently that had a couple of things I should send to you all. But we really
I think
should,
we just need to start with Van Cleef and get two maps there, and those two places at Van Cleef, because that makes sense.
these two here.
The one in the park.
Well, I thought we were gonna do, or we discussed, maybe we didn't come to any kind of
Yeah, we didn't.
consensus, but the trail maps on the big
Yeah,
board, and then like a trifold of the town.
yeah,
So the,
but there's two in the park. I think those two should definitely be, maps of the park.
yeah, and
That's where
option
you go
two is Shane has a print shop. I don't know his last name, I should. But he's started doing acrylic printing.
Oh,
it's like-
that would be great.
It looks almost three-dimensional and it's plastic covered and it's waterproof and everything. I had him print out a Declaration of Independence for me. And I think he's still working with it. So if we want to talk to him sooner rather than later, he might, donate some of that as practice. And those would be super durable and they look good. So we just have to decide what we want on them. And I think a map of the trails over there would be great. And if you want to put something else on, depending on the location, I mean, they could have different stuff on them, but
Well, it would be nice, I think, and this is just my personal opinion, if they were all the same. The one I saw recently that I thought was really well done had the town map, sort of you are here kind of thing, but then had the trail map on the same thing, and we could have it printed in one version and put that on all the kiosks. That way you know where the entrance to the various trails are, whether you're going back here, whether you're going to Van Cleef, and you have you are here to help you navigate to those access points on the trails. Does that seem reasonable?
Mhm.
Okay, maybe I can get an example together and bring
Yeah.
forward to y'all.
It'd be nice to have a full map that you could put those little boxes. too.
Yeah, the trifold map
Real,
would
real,
be
real
good.
one you could take with you, like most places have those little maps, when you go
I-
hiking, you take it with you.
I started to work on sort of a tourist brochure, just as a straw man to sort of start to navigate, but I haven't gotten very far in it, but I'll continue to work on that.
We also need a town map at the Canal Basin Square that's really messed up. I don't know where we got those from.
Any questions for Council Member Morse before we go to Mr. Hyson?
Well, I'm just bringing up the issues about what do we want to do with the maintenance issues, long-term and or short-term, or how to keep up with that, because you know, there's been concerns of that so much, and keeping a track of what needs to be done in the town, like, for example, those kiosks, all those kiosks need to be treated. And all those picnic tables need to be treated. And then there's a lot of work in town that's just not being done, and, you know, Kevin Cook particularly has brought that up over a period of time, and other people have too. And one of the things, so I talked to Becky about, a few other people, is maybe we should have a government service or a task force kind of look at ideas of how to find out what ideas how to maintain the town, whether it's contracting out or part-time or basically more supervision and oversight. So I mean, that's just it's hard unless you really know the town, what needs to be done. And so anyway, I thought I'd bring that up, because everybody sees different parts of the town, sees what needs to be done in the town.
Good.
You know, but
Could you, I've already spoken to Kevin. He was mentioning about price difference, you
Yeah.
know, as opposed to salary versus contract work, you know, that it could save us a lot of time. But we didn't discuss, and I didn't even think of it, one-offs like that. You know, treating wood and things
Right.
like that. Could you maybe put together? Oh, because we have that great report card that you guys put together, but a list of like the one-off things like that are coming up. Maybe next month we could put it on the. It's just hard to talk about it without knowing, like without knowing stuff like that.
Right.
Like,
And
you
we're
know,
really good
treating picnic
to
tables.
know
I
the
wouldn't have even
numbers
thought
too,
of,
of like what it would cost if that he gets, you know, so say our maintenance person, that's maybe 70,000-80,000 a year, as opposed to if you contract, because there's a lot of
I don't
towns
think our
contract a lot of things.
Maintenance person's making 70 or 80,000 a year.
Well,
like-
plus benefits.
Well, with benefits,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
It gets up there.
I don't think it's
even close to
yeah,
That's way off.
but
What is he, do you know what he makes? Oh,
No, I would like.
45.
Yeah, I think it's
45, but I
it's
mean,
sub
benefits.
50. If
Yeah,
that's
okay.
appropriate to say.
That.
I'd like to add that, you know, and I must say, since I've been here, maintenance has been an issue. And so I've looked and listened, and it's not just me, it's general property, it's janitor, it's fix this, our door won't open. There's lots of things that one man does.
Yeah.
So everybody's been talking around it, so Thursday, I just asked him, I said, what do you need? I think he knows he's not getting everything done. I said, what do you need to do the job and get it all done? And I was surprised, he said a part-time person in the spring to fall. And,
I agree.
you know, most would say, well, I'm a staff member, I want to do that. You have to give them the tools and what they need to do the job.
I agree.
There's a lot more to it than all the rest of them.
I'll go out of my comfort zone here, but when we do have a set list of things that has to be done, at what point do we confront, is he the right guy for the job? And I think that's something that has to be addressed eventually. And I don't know if it's right now, because I think that he is suffering from a lot of vagueness. I think that this position where you want to have some defined boundaries, and I don't think that they're necessarily there yet, but I do know that there are people that, and again, I'm kind of uncomfortable saying this, but there are people for that amount of money that can do that job. I can give you a list of them.
Right,
And they're willing to work, and they're looking for jobs, and
right.
I don't want to put that on him, because I think he does generally a fantastic job. But when we lay out what has to be done and it's still not getting done, there are people that can do that. And I think that's something that we have to start thinking about.
Well, I
And
thought,
maybe unfair or you know, but
No, that's.
No, I think that's perfectly fair. I thought we decided last time that we were gonna table this till after the 4th of July. I had volunteered to actually get a framework together on what needs to be done and start managing some of that work. So that we could get better visibility. I mean, clearly over 4th of July, he did a great job, getting things together at a high level, but there's some things that are also falling through the cracks. But I think if we kind of get that big picture view of what needs doing and say, do we have the right person? Do we have enough coverage for all these things? I can get a better sense for what that looks like, because right now I feel I don't have good insight into that.
Well, I think
I
Becky
have
got more.
several lists that I'm actually trying to compile into one for, your town administrator, but it's, some of the public has given me a list.
Right.
And it's a lot of things,
Right.
and
You've done,
Can I
you've got,
work with
you've
you
done.
on that, Javier,
Yeah.
to try to get the
Becky-
framework together?
You've
Because
done
I
as
think some
much as
things he
anybody.
probably does
Yeah.
really.
well,
You-
maybe
your
it's like
experience,
a
you've done really
mid-ground
well.
here where maybe we remove
Yeah,
him
they
from
get
doing
work
things
done.
like
Right.
mowing. We contract something like mowing out
Exactly.
over the summer, and that takes a lot of his summer responsibility. off of
Contract
him.
that well.
And I think that would be a good solution to freeze up, because I'm assuming that, and I have not done my due diligence and looking into it, but I'm assuming that's what takes up most of his time. Edging and mowing and stuff like that. So if we can contract that out, so maybe it's from, May through September. And we just go to a bunch of local companies, we take the cheapest bid or, the best bid,
Yeah,
maybe not the cheapest, but the best bid.
right.
And we might end up saving money on that and having a better product in the end as far as
Right.
what he can produce, because I think
Well,
there might be a middle ground there where it's not just, get out of here.
And I think too, we figure out what are the buckets of things that need doing? And what are getting done and what are not getting done, then we can make a better assessment of what's easily contracted out and what's not.
I think to
easily.
break it down too, though, like, is if you take mowing off the table, is that a full-time job?
Right,
I don't know what generally goes into what he does day to day. But if I'm personally looking at, I do similar stuff for my work. If I'm personally looking at, if you take that big chunk of work away from there,
Well, you have
there's
listed-
not much of a full-time job there. I mean, unless he's really stretching to do what he's doing, so.
Well,
Could-
somebody asked, what did he do during the winter? What did he do? I mean, how do you keep track of what he did during the winter? He did a little painting, but there's so much that could have been done, the stairs here,
yeah, but we can't,
So much.
you can't manage backwards, you can only manage forward, and I think Meredith.
And then.
I'm sorry, I feel like we discuss this at every meeting.
Right.
And we have all it says on here is maintenance issues.
Right.
What I'm gonna suggest is we table this till the August or September meeting. And come back with, I know Kevin has a list of contract prices and how that could save us money. And you were talking about there's one-off stuff that needs to be done, and you were gonna work with them, and I feel like we talk in circles about this issue at every meeting. And if we say, let's put this on the September agenda, and you could have already spoken to him, we could have those lists compiled about what exactly he's doing.
Right.
We could get the list from Kevin on what could be contracted
that's
out.
what this is
What-
about, yeah. What do you
But you
want?
don't have it.
What do you want? What do we want to do? That's what it's about.
Yeah,
What do we want to do?
Well, let's-
I want to talk about it when we have the information in front of us that we could
Yeah,
actually
what
do
we
something
actually
about it.
need, yeah.
Right, and then you can look at and assess what could effectively be done, what can't be contracted out, what really needs a person to do this. We can make a better assessment.
So Javier, we'll get with Kevin and maybe that committee and.
Well, I think Becky and Javier already have the information, right? So we can start with the folder and stuff that they have.
There's a lot of input from council members, but I think I'm needing to pull together some little bit of data, like data points. So we have 3 lists that Becky was kind enough to compile, have a conversation with you, getting an idea of what contracting looks like, and then making it a question of budget and time.
Mhm.
That's gonna give us a good view of what we're thinking, our expectations, but then our budget.
Yeah, and so I can work with you, or I can do it with your approval, Javier, to bring that information. And then once we have that, maybe we can forward it to government services or anybody else who has some input on what can be readily done and what are those scenarios. I think that's absolutely a great way to approach it.
Could you also compile a list of kind of our town assets, properties, buildings,
Yeah,
things
that's a good
that he
idea.
is
What needs to be done?
responsible for? Because I think that'll
That should be.
give us an, a perspective on what's actually are his responsibilities. Maybe not touching everything every day, but is it, is it just town hall here, or is it the parks where he spends most of his time, or?
And then I think. Deadline oriented is always sometimes good, so. Having that direction come back early fall, I guess, summer. Would, is that what August we said?
I think we can get the information together in August, and then we can go to Meredith, to your point about September of taking action on this, right? Right now, we had budget and we were, in the throes of that, then we had holidays, we were in the throes of that. I think now we're moving into a time where it's a little bit more stable and we can actually put some attention on this.
Yeah, and like break it down to categories too. Some of it's groundskeeping.
Right.
Some of it's maintenance,
Right.
like the picnic tables and things like that. That's maintaining your property,
Right.
taking care of it. So
Right.
it's several different categories.
Yep.
I've been a little rough on our boy, but also there are people that are licensed plumbers and electricians where we wouldn't have to outsource that stuff.
Yeah,
that feeds into
right.
it. If it's a leaky faucet, there are people that are very capable of and willing to work.
Absolutely.
That could be a part of the town that could fix those problems. That's going to save us a bunch of money on the other end.
And once we see what is the totality and where our priorities sit, and we can say, okay, do we have the right fit? Do we need a different fit? Do we need a combination fit? But I think, at least for me, I can't make that judgment call until I see what does that whole bucket of activity
do
look like.
Also, I'd like to
we
hear
can
from
save money.
him too. I don't know if he's, I don't know if he's willing to come in, and it might be an uncomfortable place to be, but
Yeah,
also I'd like to hear his perspective on it. I really haven't talked to him about it.
but we could save a lot of money, just, why can't he clean the bathrooms, take that off of, Marina? I mean, bathrooms are not that big of a deal, but for some reason, he doesn't do the bathrooms. I mean,
That's my least favorite job.
I know, but a maintenance person should be doing that as well as, and so I think that would save a lot of money right there. I mean,
Cleaning
you should be able to do all
public
the dirty
bathrooms are
work too, what,
Cleaning public bathrooms is a big deal.
yeah, but I mean, it should be part of a maintenance person.
But if that's the priority, we don't know what's been communicated to this gentleman and what hasn't.
Well,
We need to know what's that big picture, and then have we really communicated the right things? So, I mean, I can't say.
Yeah. I mean, it's oversight all the way, really.
I'm all
I like
for-
your
I
proposal.
think it's a very good thing.
Okay, let's move on. I'm gonna ask, Javier to explain the ins and outs of hiring a new town clerk.
So what's the previous soliciting or non-soliciting was the question that we had. So we have the flexibility on that in regards to soliciting. I think an important aspect, and some of you guys might remember, is that there is also an appointment process to council. My process was a pretty standard interview. And then I came to a council session in December or something. It was right around Christmas, with an assessment from staff, a member of government services, and Matt about me being qualified, and a recommendation for my appointment as a clerk of Scottsville. So we have some flexibility with that. My major suggestion is that I think with the budget scale we have here, with the type of job description that it is, which I reviewed, and I have a finalized version that I feel comfortable sharing out. I would put it out, especially so it feels fair in regards to solicitation. Advertise it for a month. Just to cover yourself. And then that would, I think you would get a pool that would be probably the same that lengthening any other amount. So part of it is I did an assessment of what my job description is. And I feel comfortable with trying to look for that again. I would like to have good input with it. I think I have a familiarity with the clerk job from a year and a half. So I think I know what I'm looking for. I'll probably be looking for anything, if I'm lucky enough, anything that will strengthen some weaknesses or some aspects that can be additive to the team. So
That's
you
good.
always play off of what strengths you have is usually when you're trying to staff up. So part of me is I want to hit the ground running because I think a variety of stakeholders would like some urgency, but I also want to find a right candidate. So I have a good job description, sharing it out, and then making a good assessment of the next clerk would be really beneficial for me.
Okay.
So to answer your question, that one applicant that.
I never heard back from
Yeah.
him. I let him know that it was
the
a
answer to
definite.
that, It is okay if you reach out to them.
Okay,
Because it says you can solicit it, the town administrator can actually seek, but
okay.
we're gonna advertise to cover it.
I
Yeah.
think it'd be a good idea. You see,
Yeah, we have
Years ago.
in the original pool of
Right.
candidates, there were a number of people that might qualify for that, so I would suggest going back through resumes and maybe doing the same thing Meredith did to this gentleman, is reach out to people and say, hey, we have this open, would you be interested in?
Now, like, I could go through that list, solicit, and then I'd like some discretion to look through these candidates and pull what I think
Absolutely.
and make a short list. I won't know until
Yep.
we'll see how the job market.
were you gonna write the job description? I mean, not the ad,
Yeah,
oh, you already did that, okay. And what's the salary range?
we have,
That's approved in the budget.
yes, so we have a cap on our budget, and I stick to that,
45,
a little over.
45,
47, something like that.
from what, this is a range, but it's a range, right? It's a range.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I'll make a range and then based on my
Okay.
experience and what qualifications, I'll
Okay.
see
Okay.
what I can pull off.
It's always good to put that in there, but just be based on experience.
Based on experience, yeah.
Well, and I
Maybe
think
don't go with that number.
you may not get the person with the right matchup of experience, but if they have the right skills that can be worked into that, right? And you've got a good candidate.
I think I would hit it, that's probably your good.
That's what I think you'll get, right? Is you'll have to look for the person who has those right skills that you need to help you, right?
But I think this will be again an opportunity for professional development.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great.
And you're gonna do this responsibility in the interim?
Yes. So what I have
You
is.
can do that?
Well, we're covered through August, right?
Yeah,
When
but
Becky's
this is gonna
still
take,
here.
this is going to go beyond that.
Oh, and
Yeah,
this.
so a couple. So I mean, I think that might be something to look at too, to compensate you somewhat for that too, I think, but doing double duty, but anyway, it's something we can look at the budget.
Well, and we just have to support him, right? And
Yeah.
understand that the hiring process is
Right.
gonna take a little bit of time. And the priorities are just gonna have
That's
to,
not to
wait a
take care of.
little.
Potentially, do a amortization, I guess would be the word, of whatever that salary is and put it towards you as a bonus, whatever, month by month. I don't know if that's something that makes sense to you guys.
Or temporary, we could do.
I can-
temporary
and
hires, like,
I get off a lot of days at 1:30 at Baines. I'm very happy to volunteer for
Let's hire Meredith, there we go.
some secretarial,
Great.
whatever, like stuff that you need done, filing and, sending out of emails.
That leads right into that. I think you all had some discussions about hiring a part-time temporary student, $10.20 an hour, I think. But there was some concern of, do we have the money? Well, Emily Morse, this is her second week of volunteering in the office. And I will be honest with you, she's more help to him right now than I am. Because it's a lot of things he's trying to get off his desk, we're over with July, or 4th of July, trying to bring some things together for prepare for the SWIP. And, so I know you can't take action now, but next week I will be bringing you back, because I'm backing off hours. Because I see her such an asset in the office. We just getting friends. Wow. Anything we give her to do.
She's good.
Do good. And, so, and she leaves at 2 every day, so if you get off at 1:30.
Pop in and help out a
I'll
little
bring
bit.
something back to you next week, because you can't take any action tonight. But with me backing off and then his position vacant, there's plenty of money in the budget and salaries to pay her through the summer.
So we could, next week, if we were to pass something, we could begin then paying her for what.
Yeah, and I would hope you retroactive, because she has really been a big asset.
Must have good parents.
So it's very nice to call the town office and have a nice voice, answer and say, how can I help you?
Yes.
Rather than say. You want to leave a voicemail question.
I think if we do that, we should have a job description as well. For her, just to be, you know,
Sure.
in case we want to continue this somehow.
Well, I think that's the idea, is to have, right, that's correct, we're trying to have some of something.
All right. Is there anything anybody else wants to talk about before we get home?
Okay, then you.
We're starting a private club down the street, so nothing happening there. Come on.
What's that?
What's a private club?
So it's
Thank you.
initially it was just a group of our friends that wanted to have, you know, a place to hang out, play music, stuff like that. And it's kind of developed into folding into what I guess the legal classification of it. So essentially a country club or a moose lodge in between those. Nothing happening yet. I just want everyone to be aware of that. It's happening. If you're interested, come check it out. Below the Masonic Hall in the old B store, below the Masonic Hall in the old B store is where we're trying to do it. So a lot of stuff's licensing and insurance and all that stuff has to happen, but I just wanted to put it on everyone's radar. We're starting a private club.
Okay, well, read, make sure you read the complete plan this week, and come back with any questions next week, so we can get that.
Man, that's one more. I think just to make sure we have town codes, so we would have to follow some procedures, since it's a family member.
Oh, yeah.
So we can clarify that for the next meeting, just to make sure there's no conflict.
James Gibbons procedure that will bring to you.
Right. It's the same one Eddie went.
Yeah, but we're gonna do a little bit more.
Whatever it is, it is.
That's.
Yeah,
Yes, that's what
absolutely.
you guys said.
Right. And I will recuse myself from any votes.
And then please talk to your zoning administrator.
I got you. It's just an idea right now, but I come get
I'm here
it.
to help with that.
All right, well,
Please-
it's a long
please
session,
do.
but we got a lot of topics, so thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So you have.
Got to decide what to call
We're working on it. It should be a fun, cool thing. Let's do some music and hanging out.
Is that the,
That sounds cool.
is that the Schmidt owns that store?
Taylor, yeah.
Taylor. Yeah,
Yep.
Taylor. Oh,
And I know that,
is he gonna still do those apartments above there?
I think that.
he's thinking about it. I know a guy who does construction.